Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Deeper Dive. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. This show is produced by Jordan Klein. You can find him on Twitter at Jordan Klein. And we are joined, as usual, by Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. This show is sponsored once again by No House Advantage. Also want to tell you guys right off the bat that we do have a new show on OddsShopper, a live show Monday through Friday. 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern. I guess we usually go with Eastern. At 4 p.m. Eastern, we've got a new show on the OddsShopper channel. If you're into betting, join Lofty, Ben, Greg, Eric, Aton, and all the regular guys as they break down the night's best bets using premium OddsShopper tools and data. Also, while you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Yesterday, Adam and I broke down a 4-game slate, and we did a pretty good job. We covered one team for half an hour on that 4-game slate. Tonight, we're going to have to go a little bit quicker. We've got an hour and 15 minutes, but we do have to break down 10 games, Adam. But let's start with recapping yesterday just a little bit. Adam, you talked about Jimmy Butler a little bit on the show yesterday, and he was kind of the key to the slate. You really needed Jimmy Butler. Did you have a nice night last night?
Talked about him, didn't play him. Like I said, I wasn't playing 150 max. I still don't think I would have gotten to that much anyway, just sort of looking at what I ended up with in 20 max. But yeah, it was one of those, like, I thought it made sense as a play. I personally, I guess, wouldn't have gotten there and therefore wouldn't have won. Yeah, I mean, I was screwed. Like, every lineup I had at least one of LaMelo, Tatum, and Embiid. So, like, there was no chance I was winning.
Yeah, you kind of needed, like, Embiid, you sort of needed, and he put up 45 fantasy points. Like, he was clearly not great point per dollar, but you still sort of needed him. I actually ended up playing 30% Jimmy Butler, which was only somewhat intentional. Like, I boosted his projection because I wanted to get above the field on Jimmy Butler, but was not really intending to play 30. And I only played 20 lineups too, so I wasn't 150 maxing either. But yeah, happy to get the Jimmy Butler. And then, of course, LaMelo and Tatum, and the rest of it went poorly. But another thing, if you are keeping track of these, like, teams that are great values, we did have 4 Bulls in the winning lineup last night. We had 4 Pistons in the winning lineup last night, which, you don't see all that often, 4 players from one team, but that was kind of the right recipe for it. Like, they were all just such great values, and it was a 4-game slate, so we didn't have much value elsewhere.
Could you hear that?
Around. No, I couldn't hear it.
I think it was construction, but it just sounded like something like blew up outside. But I think it was just like, there's a lot of construction outside my building, so I think they just, like, dropped something.
Okay. Yeah, no, I couldn't hear it. Maybe I didn't see anybody in chat mention it either. So I guess we didn't get through the mic. All right. Well, we do need to move along. We got 10 games to get through, so we can just jump right into it, Adam. And looks like the first game that we've got on the slate is Chicago at Toronto with a total of just 219.5. Really low total here. Do you have do we want to do the whole game at once? We'll still go team by team. So we'll start with Chicago. Anybody that you're interested in playing from Chicago? Do you expect anybody to be in your player pool tonight?
So, I mean, and you kind of touched on it at the top. This show obviously is going to be different than yesterday in that we don't need to dig that deep into every team because there are just so many teams on the slate. And this is one of those games where, like, there's plenty of stuff that if you get to them in a random tournament lineup is fine, but there's not a lot that stands out. I do think the $7,700 price tag on DeMar DeRozan on DraftKings is worth calling attention to. He's pulling 10% ownership with a 9% chance of being optimal. Anytime you get to Vooch or Levine is going to be fine, but, like, you're not going out of your way to get to those guys. Alex Caruso, 1% owned, obviously not an exciting play. He's one of many guys where in an individual lineup, if, for example, you want to get away from, like, Chris Dunn's ownership, you could go to Alex Caruso and just, kind of hope to run good and Caruso beats him out. But Dunn projects better. So it's not a team that I plan on prioritizing anything from. I think DeRozan's price point is the one that stands out the most to me at 7,700.
Yeah, DeRozan looks, I mean, that's just a nice price tag for DeRozan. Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on from Chicago, or are we just going fast paced here because we got 10 games?
Yeah, I think we can just kind of keep going.
Yeah, it's just not that interesting of a team. We've got, as we said, 10 games here, 20 teams to work with, so don't have to do a lot with Chicago. What about Toronto on this? I think Jakob Poeltl is the only play that kind of stands out to me as somebody that I have some interest in at 4% ownership. I think he's kind of nice positive leverage in the tools. Last I checked, do you have any interest in Poeltl or anybody else from Toronto?
Yeah, Poeltl's the one that looks the best here. You've seen pretty solid playing time recently. 27 minutes last game, but lost like 5 minutes to garbage time in that one. If you're going to get 30 to 32 minutes from him, or at least have the potential to, it is an appealing price tag. He is projected to go a bit under-owned as well. 10% chance of being optimal, 4% projected ownership on DraftKings at 6,100. So sort of like DeRozan, he's the guy that looks the best. He still doesn't look like a priority. I just expect I would get to him more than I get to anything else from Toronto. Obviously, it goes without saying, Siakam, Anunoby, Barnes, Van Vliet, like they're fine, but they just are pretty far down the list in terms of plays tonight.
Yep. And also, as we're talking about Toronto, we got to say, RIP Bo Cruz got cut today from Toronto. Did you see the movie? I can't remember what it's called though. Juancho Hernangomez got cut. He was Bo Cruz in the Anthony Edwards movie. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm following. I was like, I thought you said Bo Cruz, and I don't know who that is.
Yeah. I forget what the name of the movie is now. It's I loved it because Ant was in it. But Hustle. Yeah. Hustle. That's right. So RIP to Bo Cruz. Hopefully he'll get signed somewhere else just because he did a pretty good job in the movie. He's fun to watch. All right. Anything else that you want to touch on from Toronto before we move on to the next game?
Nope.
All right. Well, then we can move on to the Lakers at the Grizzlies. This one has a 231 total. The Grizzlies favored by 9. No LeBron James, no D'Angelo Russell. Obviously, that's a bump to everybody else. And I think this is one of the kind of more interesting teams right off the bat, talking about the Lakers. What is your level of interest in these individual Laker players, and who's going to make it into your player pool?
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers look like a team that's definitely offering us some value with no LeBron and a doubtful D'Angelo Russell. Anthony Davis, we know, sees a bump without LeBron, and also, without Westbrook. He's about a 1.5 fantasy point per minute guy. Not a great matchup against Memphis, and there are certainly some other very good pay-up options on this slate. Davis being center only on DraftKings kind of keeps his ownership and expectations in check as well, but still a good play, pulling 21% ownership. Like getting to him. And then you get value with Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder. I expect all three of those guys to be in the starting lineup. Schroeder's just shy of a fantasy point per minute with Anthony Davis on the floor and without LeBron this year. Beasley's likely to give you low to mid 30s in minutes at 4,500, certainly scoring dependent. So he's a scary play, but plenty of opportunity should be available since there's not really any high usage guys on this team outside of Anthony Davis. You expect Beasley and Schroeder to soak up a lot of that usage because that's not Jared Vanderbilt's game. That's not Austin Reeves' game. It's not Troy Brown's game. Rui certainly off the bench could play a bigger role, but he only played 11 minutes last game. So I'm not entirely confident where he's at in the rotation, where he is in the hierarchy when it comes to like Austin Reeves. Troy Brown kind of seems like those guys are ahead of Rui. So Beasley and Schroeder should see plenty of minutes and increased opportunities. And then Jared Vanderbilt at 4,100, not a high usage guy and just isn't going to be. That's not his game, but the minutes should be there for him. He played 27 or 28 minutes last game. You certainly could see a bit more without LeBron. He's only 4,100. You're absolutely not expecting him to go for 47 DraftKings points or whatever it was again tonight. But at 4,100, if the guy goes for 28-30, you're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, we're only projecting him for 25.5 minutes, and he's got a projection of 27.5 at 4,100. So already projects pretty well. Like he's a decent enough point per dollar guy. We're talking about Vanderbilt here. Decent enough point per dollar guy, despite not being a great scorer already. And that's in 25.5 minutes. If he does get up to 28, 29, 30 minutes, he's going to look really great. We got a super chat relating to the first game, and I don't really have a strong opinion on this, but do you think Patrick Williams will play a little bit more because the Bulls need some size tonight?
Maybe. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on it. He played 22 minutes, including garbage time last game. So even if you say he plays more, I wouldn't expect it to be enough that I really care at 4,700 on this slate.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Patrick Williams, he's a 0.73 fantasy point per minute scorer so far this year. So we've got him projected for 24 minutes. He did play 28 in not the last game, but the game prior to that against Brooklyn. And then, prior to that, he'd been playing close to 30 minutes, but just 22 the most recent game against Washington. I don't know that he's going to get enough of a boost in playing time to really be somebody you want on a 10 game slate. He'd be more interesting to me in a shorter slate. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, especially because the price tag didn't come down. That was like the one thing I needed to double check. But at 4,700, like I don't care. Even if he does play more minutes, if you're saying the baseline is 20 to 22, let's say he plays 26, like you still wouldn't play him. He plays if you're guaranteed Patrick Williams plays 26, 28 minutes, you're still just completely ignoring him at 4,700.
Oh, I see people in chat thinking that I said that Juancho Hernangomez. Oh no, this is Leonard Fournette. Okay, they're talking about Leonard Fournette. It wasn't me spreading false news. People thought Leonard Fournette died, but no, he was just cut by the Bucks today as well. Similar. Okay. Anything else you want to say about the Lakers before we move on to Memphis?
Somebody asked about Austin Reeves as a value play. I don't hate it. Him and Troy Brown are similar where you don't really know exactly how these minutes are going to break down between Rui, Reeves, and Brown. It's pretty likely Reeves finds his way into the closing lineup. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you get a Schroeder, Beasley, Reeves, Vanderbilt, Davis closing lineup and you end up with like 27, 28 minutes for Reeves. He's not a good point per minute guy, but he's pulling 6% ownership. He's somebody that if you're playing a bunch of lineups could just find his way in here and there. He's not somebody I'd expect to be getting to in like single entry or three max or anything like that. Same goes for Troy Brown at 3,100, just low point per minute guys where there's the potential for them to get minutes, but then you also still need them to play above their head in terms of production. They're not, I actually sort of like Rui the most out of the group just because I'm the least confident in Rui's minutes, but he's the best point per minute guy. So if you get Rui minutes, you're at least getting production. Whereas with Brown and Reeves, you need the minutes and you need the production. So I'm not confident in any of them, but I think Rui and Reeves would probably be the two I'd like the most if, I'm for some reason forced to play one of those guys.
Where would you rank Anthony Davis among the like elite, like players above 10,000 in terms of salary? Where do you think you would rank Anthony Davis in a
Yeah, that's
GPP
tough
setting?
because the position plays such a big role. I think he's comparable to guys like, Ja Morant, but like I think he projects like we haven't projected better than Morant, but the position just makes it tough. I think I probably would get, I guess I'll say third or fourth. Lillard, Luka, Jokic, Davis probably.
Okay. Yeah. So he has a fifth best projection on the slate. Really, there are only five guys. Like there's a big gap between Anthony Davis projecting for around 54 fantasy points and then Ja Morant is 50. So, there's a kind of a top five in terms of projection: Luka, Lillard, Jokic, Giannis, and then Anthony Davis. But he is the cheapest by far at 10,300. So at least, certainly a solid enough value at 10,300. And then just in terms of outside of Anthony Davis, I just wanted to separate him because he is, I think, kind of a different tier than anybody else on the Lakers. How would you rank your, the appeal of the other players on the Lakers that you're interested in playing?
Outside of Davis?
Yeah.
Schroeder, Beasley, Vanderbilt all look good. Everyone else scares the hell out of me.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is a fair assessment. Let's move on to the other half of this game, the Grizzlies. Who is going to make it into your player pool, and are there any priorities here for you?
Yeah, no real priorities here. Morant's the only guy that stands out at all. 10-1, good matchup. The problem you're going to run into with Morant, and the reason why, if you look at our projections, you have such a big drop-off between, say, Anthony Davis and Ja Morant, is the playing time on Morant. In competitive games, you're still typically just getting like 33 to 35 minutes from Morant. And then obviously there's blowout risk in every game. I'm not saying it in the sense that like this game could be a blowout, but I mean, it obviously could. But like when you talk about other 10K plus guys in their competitive games, you're typically getting 37, 38 minutes. Like if this game goes down to the wire, Anthony Davis is probably playing like 3 or 4 minutes more than Ja Morant. If this game goes down to the wire and like the Blazers game goes down to the wire, you're probably getting like 5 or 6 minutes more from Damian Lillard than you are from Ja Morant. So that's why you do see that drop off in terms of medium projection, but still clearly a high ceiling, a good matchup. The offense is going to run through him. So he looks good, but not the same level of priority as some of these other pay up guys. And then you just get, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks. These are all guys that you can get to in tournaments. That's pretty much always the case. You get the massive block upside with Jaren Jackson. That volatility gives him a high ceiling, but he's correctly priced. Same goes for Desmond Bane as far as being correctly priced. And then Dillon Brooks is really cheap, and the minute should be there, but you have to keep in mind that he does not shoot all that often when all three of Bane, Morant, and Jackson are in. So this isn't the same, Dillon Brooks goes out there and chucks. This is Dillon Brooks goes out there and plays defense, and you have to hope he shoots efficiently from three, which is certainly not his game.
Would you equate this? So I kind of would equate this Memphis team to Miami last night, where it was like none of these guys are like incredible in terms of point per dollar or like the best values on the slate or anything, but they're all so low owned that in a large field GPP, I kind of think Jaren Jackson Jr. at 3% ownership is kind of interesting. Desmond Bane at 4.3%. Would you agree that in a large field GPP, do you think you would try to get over the field on these guys, or do you think that's just like about the appropriate ownership there?
I think it's pretty much appropriate. So, I do think that it's a comparable situation to Miami. The difference, though, is that on last night's slate, Miami was really the only team that had good players at low ownership. Whereas tonight, we just talked about Toronto, Chicago. They're very comparable to Memphis. Memphis is the same thing, but it's just, like Miami, you basically got 3 or 4 good NBA players at low ownership, and every other good player on yesterday's slate was getting a bunch of ownership. Whereas tonight, you have an abundance of just good point per minute guys that are getting basically no ownership. So they're just going to look similar to the Memphis guys. And you end up, I don't think there's any reason, I guess, to say Jaren Jackson's where I'm taking a huge stand, but I'm not going to play any, Zach LaVine or
Yeah.
Vooch or whatever. Like they're all kind of the same play.
Yeah, that's a good call. It's just a different slate dynamics than yesterday, where we only had 4 games in total, didn't have nearly as many options. Whereas tonight, it's hard to really, as you say, prioritize Jaren Jackson, some of these guys from Memphis over other teams. I think I tend to like to play Jaren Jackson because of the volatility, but obviously bites me more often than it helps me.
It is a home game too if you buy into those home road splits, which I do at least to some extent.
I mean, it seems like it is a real thing. Like
yeah, and I mean it's not like it's an unheard of thing. Like home scorekeepers. The part of it to me that's really interesting is I don't remember what the Twitter account was. Somebody went back and just like looked at all of his home blocks, and it wasn't like he's getting home cooking in the sense that he's not blocking shots and they're giving him credit. He's probably just not getting enough credit on the road.
Yeah, that's a fair accounting of things. That's really interesting. I didn't see that report, but that makes sense. I mean, yeah, they're not just giving him phantom blocks. He has a great defensive play. Anybody else that you like, or anything else you want to say about Memphis before we move on to talk about your Wizards?
Nope. We can go to the Wizards.
All right, let's move on then. We'll talk about the Wizards at Atlanta, game with a 234.5 total. Atlanta favored by 7. We'll start with the Wizards side of the game. Anybody you like from the Wizards? Any priorities and who's making it into your player pool?
Yeah, I think any of the starters look good. As far as the biggest priorities, I think you're looking at Beal, Kuzma, Gafford as the main 3. You don't have Kristaps Porzingis tonight, so you get an increased usage rate from Beal. You get increased opportunities for Kyle Kuzma as well, and they're both pretty inexpensive. Kuzma at 7,800 on DraftKings, Beal at 7,600. They both just look like good options. And then Daniel Gafford's a bit underpriced, coming off of a game last time out with no Porzingis, where Gafford played 31 minutes, lost about 3 minutes to garbage time. You do have foul risk with him, but without Porzingis, you certainly have a path to a bunch of minutes for Gafford. We know he's a good point per minute guy. He's cheap. So all 3 of those guys stand out as priorities. And then you get DeLon Wright and Denny Avdia, who I think are good plays, just like a tier below Kuzma, Beal, and Gafford. DeLon Wright at 4,500. We'd seen him playing increased minutes even with Monte Morris, but without Monte Morris, those minutes are stable. Played 28 last game, would have gotten around 31 had that game come down to the end. Denny Avdia played 27, lost a few minutes to foul trouble in the first half, lost minutes to garbage time. If he's playing well, you can certainly see low to mid 30s from him at 5,100. So I think him and Wright are just sort of solid, like last guy in type plays. Kuzma, Beal, Gafford are the guys that I'd be actively targeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice matchup with Atlanta, too. They play at a little bit higher, faster pace than most teams. They're a little bit worse defensively. So I do like the matchup. I could see this game really going off. Beal, I wrote about in my article today, just as a guy who looks pretty good in the mid range, just in terms of like point per dollar value. He projects pretty well for a 7,600 player. So I do really like Beal. We got a question in chat, not a super chat, but I'll call it out anyway. Just the question. Maybe you answered it already. Between Kuzma, Beal, and Klay Thompson, did you already answer that question in chat? You can answer it here too. Okay.
Kuzma, Beal, or Klay. I think it's one of Kuzma. It's probably Beal, Kuzma, Klay. I think Beal and Kuzma are super close.
Yep. All right. Makes sense.
Well, one other thing to like for Gafford too is that Atlanta is going to give 48 minutes to Clint Capella / Onyeka Okongwu. So there's less risk of Washington going to like a Kyle Kuzma at the 5 lineup where they're just running, guards and wings out there. They still could if they're just, going to try and shoot Atlanta off the floor, especially if they're coming from behind. But, I like the fact that Atlanta's going to give 48 minutes to a center. I think it makes Gafford look a little bit better.
Nice. Okay. And that's it for the Washington side of the game?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we can move on, talk about Atlanta. They are playing at full strength. Any priorities for you here, and who's making it into your player pool from Atlanta?
Yeah, this is another. Now we're back to like the Chicago, Toronto, whatever. Trae Young looks fine. He's 9,500. Certainly gives you a good ceiling. He's at a different level than like the guys above John Morant, and Morant certainly projects better as well. But 9% ownership certainly seems reasonable on Young. DeJounte Murray, Clint Capella, John Collins. These guys are all just completely reasonable. Last piece in. They're cheap enough where they have a nice ceiling, but from a median standpoint, they're just not really going to stand out. So you're not going to get much ownership there, and you're not really going to end up prioritizing them. But any of Young, Murray, Capella, Collins, I think are playable. Nothing that really stands out there.
Yeah, we got just looking at like the value column, just in terms of like their point per dollar values. We've got a lot of guys hovering right around 5x is the value for a lot of these Atlanta players. So yeah, not any real priorities, but a lot of guys who look okay. We actually got a super chat that I want to touch on. Goody says, looking like optimals are giving us one stud. Are we going to have more balanced builds tonight, or are we waiting for possible news giving us stars and scrubs for a DK GPP? Are you anticipating any news that's going to, open up the possibility of playing a couple studs, maybe more stars and scrubsy kind of lineup?
I don't think there's too much that we're waiting on. De'Aaron Fox is questionable. He was limited in shoot around today. If he's out, it does open up, like Terrence Davis and Davion Mitchell, if you want to go that route as far as value goes. But yeah, like Trey Jones is questionable, but he's been out for a while. So San Antonio is relatively expensive now. There's not a ton that we're waiting on in terms of, cheap value opening up. So I think it's sort of a more balanced slate, but also like balanced meaning like I'm still expecting to get the plenty of, Jokic or Davis or Lillard or whatever. Like I'm not going straight balanced, but I don't think we're based on the news we're waiting on right now. I don't anticipate this being a slate where like a bunch of just, an entire team opens up or anything like that.
Yeah, I was reading chat, so I may have you may have mentioned this, but De'Aaron Fox being questionable, like
yeah, that's the one that like it could open up Davis and Mitchell, but like even that, it's not. It would be one guy being out. We don't have anything that we're looking at right now that's going to rival like Minnesota the other day where they ruled out, three guys, Prince, right, Gobert, and Noel, or Detroit yesterday, basically not having a starting lineup. Like Miami, 8 times this year. Like we're not looking at anything like that right now.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that game once we get to it. But I think that's a pretty good synopsis of where we are. Now I'm trying to remember where we covered the whole. Do you anything else you want to say about Atlanta?
No.
Okay. Well, then we can move on to the next game. But guys, we do have a new offer for new users only. You can get 50% off any sport for Stokastic, any package for Stokastic. You can get 50% off. It's any sport. You can do platinum. You can do weekly packages, monthly packages. You can click the link in the description of this video to access this package. Again, it's New Year's only, or you can use promo code SCORE. You'll get access to everything Stokastic has to offer, including ownership projections, lineup generator, lineup builder, boom bust, leverage scores, our industry leading projections, anything we have to offer at Stokastic. So take advantage of that if you are a new user. Use the link in the description or use promo code SCORE. All right, we can move on to the next game, which is, hold on one second. Denver at Houston. Okay, interesting. So that's a 10.5 point spread here. Denver, of course, being favored. Yes. Oh, that is. Yeah. Yep. Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Good call, Jordan. All right. We'll do the Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Milwaukee favored by 5, 231 total in this one. Adam, we will start on the Milwaukee side of things. Giannis, I believe, probable to play is the latest. I'm expecting him to play. Any priorities for you on Milwaukee, and who is making it into your player pool?
This might be the least appealing team on the slate, in my opinion. It goes without saying, if you get a lineup with Giannis, cool. Like he's obviously really, really good. He's projected for 4% ownership. So on the one hand, you get arguably the best point per minute guy on the slate at no ownership. But I think that the ownership's as low as it is for a reason. Only a 3% chance of being optimal on DraftKings in our boom bust tool. And it's just, he's so expensive. Basically, he's correctly priced. When you have a lot of guys that are underpriced for their role and or matchup, you have Anthony Davis that's $2,000 less expensive on a slate where you don't have an abundance of value. You have value, but like you don't have. It's not like yesterday where you just have nowhere to spend the money. Those $2,000 can certainly upgrade your lineup. You have Dame, who's less expensive, playing without anybody else that has a pulse offensively. You have Luka, playing with Kyrie, so not the best, but still Luka in a good matchup. You have just so much stuff that you can get to at the top without paying 12,300 for Giannis. So I think it is very, very difficult to get there. It just strikes me as a spot where, at first glance, it's just like, oh man, I would love to just have Giannis at 4%. But once you start building lineups, I think it's going to actually be tough to get there. And then everything else just gets even less appealing. You have Chris Middleton at 6,400, still seemingly playing 25, 26 minutes off the bench. We know the usage rate is really high because he's playing essentially every non-Giannis minute, but you've just seen that price tag jump enough where I don't see getting there today. Jrue Holiday's up to 8,700 with Giannis back. That's pretty much a non-starter. Lopez and Portis are both expensive. This team on DraftKings right now, the only player projected for more than 1% ownership is Giannis at 4%. And I really have no issue with that.
Yeah, it's the ultimate. It's kind of the epitome of a pay up to be contrarian spot with Giannis because he clearly doesn't project all that well point per dollar. As you say, he projects about the same as Anthony Davis, who is $2,000 cheaper, but obviously has that ceiling. So do you think this 3.8% ownership is about fair on Giannis?
Yeah, I do. Because like you see it in the optimal percentage, but the way I kind of think about it is it would be different if you had, let's say this was last night and, somehow Giannis was just getting a lot less ownership than, let's say Anthony Davis and Jokic. Then it would be really interesting because, he really just has to beat those two guys. The problem you run into today is that first you need Giannis to score more raw points than all of, Luka, Lillard, Morant, Davis, like Jokic, all these guys. So that's number one. Like he's the most expensive. You need him to outscore those guys. But then you also get the point per dollar aspect of it, where even assuming Giannis does score more points than Anthony Davis, you still need that like $2,000 not to make a difference. But also like looking at our projections, we have Lillard projected for more fantasy points than Giannis right now at $800 less expensive. We have Luka projected ahead of him at $300 less expensive. We have Jokic projected ahead of him. So we don't even, it's not even a situation like we have Giannis projected as the highest scorer on the slate. We have him fourth and he's the most expensive guy. So, yeah, the ownership is low, but with this being a 10-game slate, you don't have any problems finding low-owned guys without paying $12,300 for them.
Yeah, it's just not the best spot for Giannis. I think I'm with you. I'm probably not playing any Giannis tonight. Arcathel's is back, says Giannis was 1% the other day, smashing, and went out with an injury, messed my whole night up. Yeah, me too. I played a lot of, and I switched off of LaMelo Ball. I was going to have a lot of course, he didn't end up really smashing the slate anyway, but that was pretty disappointing to get Giannis on kind of a shorter slate too at 1%. I mean, just under 2% owned, and then started off well. And of course, the injury risk was there because he was questionable coming into the night, but that was a bummer. Anything else on Milwaukee before we switch to the Brooklyn side?
No, I think we can go to the Brooklyn side.
Cool. All right, then we will do that. Any priorities for you on Brooklyn, and who is making it into your player pool?
No priorities. I think Claxton's the top guy for me from Brooklyn. 6,200, likely giving you 28 to 30 minutes here. Not an ideal matchup, but we know that he's, a good point per minute guy. He gives you some block upside, so that volatility is always nice. We do have him projected to go a bit under owned on DraftKings right now. 13% chance of being optimal, 7% projected ownership. So yeah, I don't think he's a priority, but he looks pretty good as a contrarian play. The rest of Brooklyn, it's just kind of interesting, sort of similar to that Miami spot yesterday, where there's a good chance that one of Thomas, Johnson, Bridges, Dinwiddie has a good game for their salary. I'd be lying to you if I told you I had any idea who it was going to be. We've seen a 27.5% usage rate for Mikal Bridges in his limited time with Brooklyn, but that's very heavily skewed by that one game where he couldn't miss and took like 24 shots, scored 70-something DraftKings points. There is going to be a lot of upside for these guys on a game-by-game basis because basically this team now is just nothing but 3-and-D guys. You need somebody to step up and score. Some games it's going to be Dinwiddie, some games it's going to be Bridges, some games it's going to be Thomas, some games it's going to be Cam Johnson. So at their price points right now, from a median standpoint, they all just look average, and that's why you're not getting much ownership. But I do think it's important to keep in mind there's a lot of just natural volatility here because we don't have that many games yet of the Nets. Anything that you look at with this current Nets team is a very small sample size. So there is certainly a chance that when you look back a month from now, it's just like, oh, wow, Mikal Bridges consistently is the number one guy here, or Spencer Dinwiddie really turned into the number one or something like that. But right now, you've kind of just seen it bounce back and forth. And so on a game-by-game basis, it can really be any of those guys. But at the same time, it can just be any of those guys. So you can't really be that confident in any of them.
Kind of reminds me of the Brooklyn team from, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know how long
Atkinson
it was.
Team.
Yeah, when they were just like, it was similar. Like they didn't have any stars. They just had a lot of like good NBA players where it was like somebody could go off any given night. And yeah, this is a similar team where it's like, yeah, none of these guys are NBA stars, but I do like a lot of, I mean, Mikal Bridges, I think, is a pretty great NBA player. Spencer Dinwiddie, they've just got a lot of like good NBA players on their team. And I think that's a good call out that any of these guys could go out any given night, which really makes them pretty interesting for large field GPPs for me. I would love them if they were playing any, like not any other matchup, but like if they were playing in a great matchup. So I think maybe this will be an opportunity like the next time they play or something, if they have, I don't know who they're playing next, but once they have a nice matchup, because if Milwaukee is able to kind of suppress them because they are number one in the league in defensive rating, if they're able to suppress Brooklyn a little bit, I think we might be able to take advantage of this down the line. But tonight, yeah, I think, as you say, none of these guys real priorities. Maybe I'll be sprinkling them into some lineups, I think. All right. Anything else you want to say about Brooklyn or move on to the next game?
Nope. I hate this game.
Yeah. I hate this game, and I really actually love the next game, Sacramento at OKC. We got a 235.5 total. Starting with the Sacramento side, Adam, any priorities for you, and who's making it into your player pool?
So this is one of the few spots on the slate right now where we have a legitimate Q tag in De'Aaron Fox. He was limited in shoot around today. If he's in, nothing really stands out here. It just is another tournament team where clearly if you get to Domantas Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox or Malik Monk, any of these guys are fine, but you're not pointing to any of them saying, like, oh, I'm expecting my night to revolve around these guys. If De'Aaron Fox is out, I still don't think it makes the Kings look that great, but it would open up a little bit more. Like Malik Monk looks a little bit better. You could roll the dice on Terrence Davis off the bench and hope he gets hot and gets extra minutes at 3,700. You could play 3K flat Davion Mitchell for his, 0.65 fantasy points per minute in 28 minutes, whatever it may be. So it will open up some value for Fox. One interesting piece is Sabonis if Fox is out. Sabonis is going to look good one way or the other. If like in terms of just, him being a good player, he's just going to look like a secondary option, even if Fox is in. I would be cautious if Fox is out, if you see Sabonis's ownership skyrocket, because if Fox is out, certainly you get an easier path to a ceiling game in terms of rates where Sabonis can shoot more or he can get more assists. But the two-man game between Fox and Sabonis is such a big part of Sacramento's offense that you actually haven't seen a huge bump in point per minute production from Sabonis without Fox on the floor, because it just affects their entire offense. It's not as simple as just saying like, oh, now Sabonis is going to shoot more and he's going to get more assists, because such a big part of their offense is him and Fox in the pick and roll. So, and Davion Mitchell is not De'Aaron Fox. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I think Sabonis is a fine play regardless. I don't think he gets a massive bump here if De'Aaron Fox is out.
But are you factored in the revenge narrative for Domantas Sabonis?
Oh my God, I forgot he played for OKC.
I was questioning myself after I said it and saw your face. I was like, I'm pretty sure he played for OKC, but I don't remember
he did,
how long.
Because he came up with OKC, and I did not think he was going to be this guy. Like I remember him stepping into the starting lineup as a value play and me fading it for like a week and a half and just getting destroyed.
Yeah. So I think it's a nice matchup. So that's part of the reason I like this game, is just because it's two teams that play at a fast pace. And especially I guess De'Aaron Fox being out, I don't know if maybe that affects the pace that they're going to play at a little bit, but we've got OKC plays at the third fastest place in the league. Sacramento plays at the 10th fastest pace in the league. If we get De'Aaron Fox out, I would imagine I think it will still be fairly fast paced. But yeah, I think it is tough to really know who to prioritize from Sacramento with De'Aaron Fox out, because I've been on the Davion Mitchell train, and Greg and I did a show the first time De'Aaron Fox was out, and I was like, I think I'm going to be above the field on Davion Mitchell, even though he's chalky, because like, what's really the downside? Because he was min-price Davion Mitchell, and I think I maybe hadn't adjusted for. He seems to have taken a step back this year, because last year he had some great fantasy games.
Yeah, I so far this year, and it's worked out pretty well. I haven't been playing Davion Mitchell in the games where Fox is out. I think he's a good point per dollar play if Fox is out. The problem I think you'd run into is he's going to be popular, and what exactly is it getting you? Overall this year, 0.65 DraftKings points per minute for Mitchell in 978 minutes played, 14% usage rate. So it's just kind of, if he goes, he's 3K. So like if he gets 22 DraftKings points, which is, about where he'd be projected, he's going to show up in a lot of highly projected lineups. It just comes back to like, if he scores 22 DraftKings points, you probably don't need him at all. It's still, you're taking up a roster spot for him. So the ownership would play a big role. It would just kind of create a spot, I think, if he starts, where I don't really have a strong take one way or the other, if you should, be over the field, under the field. It kind of just depends what the rest of your lineups end up looking like. But in general, he's a guy that, like, if Davion Mitchell actually puts up, a 30 or 35 DraftKings point game, and, that beats you, just move on to the next slate. You kind of got unlucky.
Yeah, for sure. We got a question. Somebody asked, where is Dave? And he might be talking about Laffy. So assuming that he is talking about Laffy, guys, if you want to catch, so a lot of the regular guys who have been on the deeper dive and live before lock are rotating now, because we have this new odd shopper show that starts an hour before the deeper dive. So if you want to, catch those guys on the days that they're not on deeper dive or live before lock, that's where you catch them on the Odd Shopper channel. We've got the new show talking NBA for an extra hour every day. So check that out. I believe that is where Laffy was today. I didn't actually check what the lineup was today, but I believe that's where he was. All right, let's move to the other side of this game. OKC, again, another team in a fast-paced matchup. They're going to look pretty nice. A lot of decent values here today. Nobody who's like the highest end value, but anybody who's in your player pool for OKC today, and any priorities for you.
Yeah, so there is some stuff to like here from OKC, which never feels very good. But Lou Dort is where I'm starting. 5K flat. You see a nice bump in usage for him when he plays without Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Even in the games that he's played this year, a handful of games without Gilgeous-Alexander and with Josh Giddey, you've got about a 26% usage rate in those 5 or 6 games from Lou Dort. He's averaged about 32 minutes per game. Got a good matchup here against Sacramento as well. 26% usage rate, 32 minutes per game, 1.04 DraftKings points per minute in those 5 games. So you're going to get opportunities. He's still not an efficient shooter, but he should get the minutes. He's got small forward eligibility, which is nice. He's 5K. So Dort looks good. Josh Giddey at 7,500, we know is going to look better without Gilgeous-Alexander as well. His price tag is probably a little bit lower than it should be at 7,500. You still have some sort of playing time concerns with him just because OKC is OKC, and we've seen games where they kind of jerk him around a little bit. But he played 32 minutes last game. In the 5 games he's played without Gilgeous-Alexander this year, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute, 24% usage rate, 26% assist percentage. So certainly like Giddey. And then Isaiah Joe at 4,400. If he starts, he's going to project as a good play. He does scare the hell out of me though at 19% owned, because he's much more prone to the OKC rotation bullshit than Giddey and Dort are. We saw it last game and it actually sort of ended up helping him get there, but he started the game. He had like 2 fantasy points in the first half. They started Aaron Wiggins over him in the second half. And then Joe just sort of got hot and went nuts off the bench and ended up having a big game. But that price tag now is up to 4,400. There's no shortage of reasonable value plays in this price range. I don't think he's the same sort of slam dunk play that he was on the last slate, just because of how many more options there are on a 10 gamer and the fact that nobody knows what OKC's going to do. But he is going to project well if he starts, just because you're going to expect him to play 28 to 30 minutes. And, he is a capable fantasy producer. But Dort's the guy that stands out number 1 to me. Giddey, I feel good about. And then Isaiah Joe projects as a good value. But again, it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's just a little bit terrified is a good word for it. Just, with the past 2 games, 28 minutes and 36 minutes as a starter. So that's going to make people feel a little bit more comfortable. The ownership, that's still like a fairly reasonable ownership, even if it is terrifying. But you go back to the previous game that he started was against Houston. He played 21 minutes in that game. The game prior to that, 26. Like he just doesn't always get the minutes when he does start. So not the safest in the world. But yeah, with no Shea, a lot of these guys are going to look pretty good in a nice matchup. Anything else that you want to say about this game before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, we did get a super chat. Jordan sent it to me. Thank you. Jordan Eric Atkinson asks, Joker, Dame, both or neither? What's your level of interest in? Did you have a preference between Joker and Dame, and do you think you'd play them together?
I'd love to play them together if I can. I don't think it's gonna be that easy to do on this slate. I give a slight edge to Dame. We have him projected slightly higher. He's a little bit cheaper. He's not a center. Certainly really, really like both guys. I'd say they're out of Luka, Dame, Jokic, Giannis. I think Lillard and Jokic are my 2 favorites. But I would give the edge to Dame, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Just a great matchup with Golden State. All right, guys, we'll move on to the next game. But first, let me tell you just for a minute about our sponsor, NOS Advantage. You've heard us talking about NOS Advantage. If you've been paying attention to these shows, we, of course, have the $100 first deposit match bonus. Up to $100. So if you deposit $25, they'll match you up to $25. If you deposit up to $100, they'll match you up to $100 on NOS Advantage. Of course, they offer pick'em contests where you're playing against the field. You make lineups. They post a bunch of static prop lines. You choose the over or the under on each. And you rank them in order of your confidence, and then your lineups are ranked against the entire field. So that's a really fun contest, and there's usually some overlay in the NOS Advantage Pick'em contest. We also have they're free projections at Stokastic, so check out the free projections at Stokastic. We also have optimal lineups on Stokastic, so if you want to take advantage of some of that overlay, you can go download the projections from Stokastic, upload them directly onto NOS Advantage. Takes zero thought. And when there's overlay, it's going to be plus EV because we're giving you our best lineup. So check out those. And then, of course, there's also the versus the house contest on NOS Advantage, where you can choose up to 5 player props. You can net up to 20x your entry fee playing against the house. And you can play as few as 2 picks if there's only 2 you're confident in. So really fun site to check out. So make sure you check out NOS Advantage tonight. Take a look at that overlay, see if we have some of that headed into lock. And then, even if there's not, you can play against the house. So check out, no house advantage. All right, Adam, let's move on and talk about the next game. I'll try and get it right this time. The next game is Denver. Okay, now it is Denver at Houston. Denver with the 10.5 spread over Houston. It's a 232 total in this one. 10.5 spread, and it's in Houston. We'll start with the Denver side of things. Adam, what is your level of interest in Denver? Any priorities for you, and who's making it into your player pool?
So we do have a questionable Jamal Murray here. I don't think this has a huge impact. If he's out, you're probably getting Bruce Brown in the starting lineup. You get somewhat of a bump for Jokic, but it's still kind of the same thing where Jokic is going to just absolutely destroy Houston for however many minutes he's out there with or without Jamal Murray. So I don't think it's a slate changer or anything if Murray's out. But if he's in, Jokic certainly looks good. He's the guy that I would want to get to first from Denver. The position and the price point certainly makes it relatively difficult. That's why you're only seeing 12% ownership come into him on DraftKings. But if you can make a good lineup and get to Jokic, by all means, great spot, great player. All that goes without saying. Michael Porter Jr. at 5,700, Jamal Murray at 8K. They both fall into that category with like 100 other guys on the slate where would it surprise you if one of them just torches Houston? No, but like that's the case for so many other guys. There's nothing special about Murray or Porter compared to, any of the other 25 people I've said that about so far. So just last guy in type pieces is fine. Great matchup for them, obviously, but nothing that truly stands out as a priority from Denver. Jokic would be the first guy that I get to.
Do you factor in the blowout potential at all? Like, is this something where you're concerned about the blowout?
You can you can cut the minutes a little bit, but especially on the side of the team that is favored, I'm not too worried about it because the thing you want to be careful of is, if you just say, well, it's a 10.5 point spread, so instead of 35 minutes, I'm going to project Jokic for like 32 or something like that. You have to keep in mind that if this game does blow out, you probably are getting Jokic producing at a higher point per minute pace than he normally does. So you want to be careful with that. You don't want to just say like, oh, well, if Jokic only plays 28 minutes, then that means he had a bad game, because if they destroy Houston to the point that Denver's not playing the fourth quarter, especially given how bad Denver's second unit is, there's a good chance that Jokic was, giving you like 2+ fantasy points per minute instead of 1.7.
Right. All right. Anything else about this game before we move on to, that team before we move on to the Houston side of things?
Nope.
Okay, so Houston it looks like it's kind of a mess. So Kevin Porter Jr. actually questionable to play in this game, potentially going to see a return of Kevin Porter Jr. Is this a mess that we need to deal with? We've seen, so the past 3 games for Şengün, he has played in the most recent game 25 minutes, 24 the game before that, 22 the game before that. Not really close games. They lost all of them by, at least 15 points, but are they just in full tank mode? Do you have any idea what's going on in Houston?
So they suck for one. You've had like some foul trouble for Şengün. You had blowouts, but really, I think they're one of the less appealing teams on this slate. The Kevin Porter Jr. status does matter at least somewhat. If he's out, it makes a $6,500 Jalen Green more interesting, just because it opens the door for Green to get up a little bit more, more field goal attempts and hopefully catch fire, but still wouldn't be a priority there. Tari Eason at 4K. You have been seeing more minutes with him at the 3, which is good. Certainly, helps his upside, but still very difficult to rely on those minutes being there, especially with Green back and Porter maybe being back. Porter did go through shoot around. So I guess 4K Eason and $6,500 Green would be the first 2 guys I get to if I play Houston. But really, I think this is a pretty unappealing team.
Yeah, I think so too. And I played Şengün a lot, just anticipating that he's going to get back up into the 30s in minutes. And he has been a letdown recently. So yeah, I don't really see any priorities here. Tari Eason, the best in terms of just point per dollar. He's got a 5.8x value with a projection of 23 in 24 minutes. But yeah, no priorities for me either. Anything else you want to say about this game, or move on to the next one?
Next one.
All right, let's talk about the Pacers at the Mavericks. 237.5 total in this one. Dallas favored by 9. We'll start with the Pacers side of things. Who's making it into your player pool, and is anybody a priority for you?
No priorities here. Just another mediocre tournament team, I think. Miles Turner, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield. Those are the guys that typically I'm pretty much always willing to play in tournaments. But you look at them and you think about who's priced around them. Miles Turner, $7,400 center. Tough to prioritize that when you have, you can either go the value route with Gafford or, other guys, in like the 5 to 6K range, or you can pay up to Davis or Jokic. It's going to be tough to prioritize a $9,300 Halliburton when Trae Young is basically the same price, or you can pay down to Giddey, or you can pay a little bit more for John Morant. It's just very clear these guys are pretty much all going to be secondary options. So just add them to the bucket of guys where they're perfectly fine ways to differentiate a lineup. They're not guys that I would expect to be taking a huge stand on tonight.
Cool. Anything else on this team before we move on to the Dallas side?
Nope.
All right, well then let's talk about that Dallas side. We talked about Luka. He has the highest projection on the entire slate. Of course, we've got Kyrie there. Any priorities for you, and who's making it into your player pool from the Mavs?
No priorities. I think I'm a little bit lower on Luka, just because we have seen the rates come down with Kyrie there, and that's fully to be expected. Only 4 games, but about a 34% usage rate, 1.46 DraftKings points per minute. 34% usage is really good, but you have to keep in mind that Luka is still priced in large part because of what he did when he was a 38, 39, 40% usage guy. So, it's still one of the highest usage rates on the slate, but it's quite a bit lower than you're getting from him for the bulk of the season. And the price tag hasn't really adjusted yet. It is a good matchup. And, clearly Luka's great. If you get there, fine. But he is pulling ownership as well. He's getting about 16% ownership. I think I probably don't really get to as much Luka. I think I get to more Dame. And I'm fine with that. It's Dame's cheaper. I think Dame actually looks a little bit better than Luka in terms of raw projection too, given the state of their current teams.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much his fantasy points per minute have dipped with Kyrie. That is a pretty substantial dip because we've got him at 1.68 fantasy points per minute for the year. So if he's down at 1.46, I mean, that's still great, but that is a substantial dip for Luka if you put it, even middle that. So that's a dip. And no other priorities here. It looks like Dwight Powell is our best in terms of point per dollar, but I mean, projection of 18, and I don't know that he really has much upside to really exceed his projection by a ton. On the slate where we've got a lot of value, at least I don't think he's a priority for me. Anything else you want to say about Dallas?
No, he's Doncic is the only guy that looks remotely interesting.
Yeah, not even Kyrie. You don't think Kyrie in the largest field GPP is even he's not going to be in your, if you're playing 150, do you think he'd be in your player pool? Or
I mean, he would be in my player pool in that I don't remove anybody from it when I run lineups, okay. But I would guess that if I got him, it was 1 to 2%.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, probably the same for me. I don't think because he's at 4.4% ownership. That that doesn't feel like too much for me, or doesn't feel like too little for me, I guess I should say. So I think I'm on the same page with you there. All right, let's move on then to San Antonio at Utah. Kind of an interesting one. Utah favored by 9.5, 235.5 total here. We'll start with the San Antonio side. Who's making it into your player pool, and do you have any priorities here from San Antonio? I think we had some questionables. Was Keldon Johnson?
Yeah, Trey Jones is questionable.
Yeah, Trey Jones questionable, and I don't think we have any clarity yet on that situation. I guess I have not been checking my Twitter, but just talk about Utah a little bit. Any priorities for you here?
From the Utah side?
Sorry, from the San Antonio side. Okay.
Yeah. From the Spurs side, no real priorities. This team's been in this situation for a while without Trey Jones, so and obviously without Devin Vassell. So you don't have any really mispriced guys. Keldon Johnson's got a high ceiling at 6,900. We have about a 30% usage rate from him with no Vassell. Jeremy Sohan at 5K, if he plays well, is likely to play 30 plus minutes, and it is a good matchup. Those two guys would be the first ones I get to. If you want to take shots on Zach Collins' ceiling in tournaments, that's perfectly fine. But nothing that really stands out. And even if Trey Jones is out, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. If he's out, it makes Malachi Branham look better. It makes Devontae Graham look better. But those prices have already adjusted where you have Malachi Branham at 5,400. You have Devontae Graham at 4,800. So I don't think there's going to be anything that really stands out one way or the other. Johnson and Sohan would be the first two pieces I get to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at Zach Collins. I was thinking might be interesting, but he's 26 and 28 minutes the past two games. He had been, the two games prior to that, 31 and 32, but it looks like he's taken a little bit of a dip. So yeah, no huge priorities, but I think it's a team that you can, sprinkle in several guys from the Spurs. All right. Anything else that you want to say about the Spurs, or do you want to talk about Utah?
Yeah, I think we can move on to Utah.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the Utah side of things. This one is going to be more interesting. This is one of the better teams to target, I would say, today, because we've got no Colin Sexton once again, but also Jordan Clarkson out for Utah tonight. So some of our better point per dollar plays on the slate come from Utah. What is your level of interest? Do you have any priorities from Utah, and who's making it into your player pool?
So I'm really interested because it's a great matchup against San Antonio, and there are certainly some decent prices here. I'm a little concerned by the ownership. Chris Dunn right now projected for 49% ownership. I know Josh kicked off the show in chat by saying to be very wary of Chris Dunn. I think I am sort of in between our projection and Josh. I don't think Chris Dunn's going to start. If Chris Dunn starts, then by all means, just play a lot of Chris Dunn because it means he's likely to play a lot of minutes. I'm assuming he comes off the bench and they start Agbaji, in which case I think projecting like 22 to 24 minutes from Dunn would make sense. But we haven't seen him play minutes alongside Horton Tucker in these recent games. Obviously it's only been a game or two. So, and now they're without Clarkson. So like he certainly could, but you are talking about two guys that don't shoot or can't shoot. There's no spacing with those two. So I don't know how much Utah is actually going to look to play them alongside each other. I think, again, expecting like 24 minutes, give or take, from Dunn is still reasonable, and it makes him look like a good point per dollar play at 3,600, still one of the better point per dollar values. But if he's coming off the bench, I think that, the current projection is a little bit high. If he's starting, then by all means, just get him in like every lineup. Horton Tucker at 5,900 looks good as well, but that's not a cheap price tag. Like, I'm kind of surprised he's getting 44% ownership. It seems more like I would expect him to get like 20, 25. You're paying nearly $6K for Talen Horton Tucker. Yeah, he's likely to get more minutes with Jordan Clarkson out. There is more production available, but he's going to be like around the 1 fantasy point per minute guy playing probably 30-ish minutes. Like, I don't totally understand why he's getting as much ownership as he is. So I think him and Dunn are both good plays, ownership agnostic. I don't really love the ownership that's coming into them right now. The rest of the starters all look fine. Markkanen, Kessler, Olynyk. We know Markkanen's expensive. We actually haven't really seen a bump in usage in the relatively limited sample that Markkanen's played without Jordan Clarkson this year. But as that grows, I would expect to see a little bit more from Markkanen. At the very least, I think it increases the chances of him reaching his ceiling, just because in the games where Markkanen is playing really well offensively, if Clarkson's in, Clarkson's still going to get his. Whereas now, you have Horton Tucker, you have Dunn, you have Agbaji. Like, if Lauri Markkanen is carving up San Antonio, they're going to just keep giving Lauri Markkanen the ball. So I think at the very least, there's an easier path to a ceiling game for him. Kessler is just another good mid-range center. I like Kelly Olynyk at 5,600. The minute should be there for him. He's one of the only other guys that I expect to play substantial minutes that actually has an offensive game. Like, when you think about who can do things offensively on this team, it's Lauri Markkanen, Kelly Olynyk, and Talen Horton Tucker, basically. Like, Chris Dunn is not an offensive player. Walker Kessler is not doing anything to score other than dunking. The bench sucks. There's nothing really here that is going to do anything offensively outside of Markkanen, Horton Tucker, and Olynyk. So I do think there's a pretty nice ceiling for Kelly Olynyk.
I was kind of surprised looking at our boom bust tool with regards to Talen Horton Tucker, because I agree, like 5,900, that's not like a slam dunk price tag for Talen Horton Tucker. We still actually have positive leverage on him, which surprised me. 44.5% projected ownership, 55% chance of booming, but also a 46% chance of being optimal according to the boom bust tool. So I was sort of surprised. What do you think the reason is there that he looks so good in the boom bust tool when he feels pretty risky to me? That seems like too high of ownership to me, but the boom bust tool would suggest otherwise. Is it just the 31 minutes projection that we're giving him, or
we're just a little bit higher on his point per minute production than I would be. And I guess maybe that's just because of the matchup, but we have him at like 38, 39 DraftKings points in 32 minutes. For one, 32 minutes might be high, but I think it's, reasonable. I would expect like 30 to 32. It's just, I'm always a little hesitant with guys like this, because like, he's not a bad point per minute guy. He's around, 1 fantasy point per minute, but he's not a shooter. And I still expect the offense to run through Lauri Markkanen. I think you see, an uptick from Olynyk as well. 22.3% usage overall for Horton Tucker this year, 1.03 DraftKings points per minute. If you take Jordan Clarkson off the floor, his usage rate gets up to 24%, 1.07 DraftKings points per minute. I don't know. I think it's just like, I think he's a good play. I'm not quite as high on it.
Right. It's just the ownership for a 10-game slate just feels a little bit high, but
especially at that price tag. Like, normally when you're going to see ownership this high, it's when you have guys priced like Chris Dunn, where there's just not going to be that many alternatives around 3,600. Even if you are skeptical of Chris Dunn, like I am, even if he plays 22, 24 minutes, there's a good chance that he's, giving you like 8X and, you can just move on. But when you're talking about somebody at 5,900, there's plenty of alternatives there, whether it's going cheaper there and then paying up at a different roster spot, or whether it's just going to somebody else around 6K. There's never any shortage of guys around 6K that you can say, like, oh yeah, this guy could have a good game. I don't know why Kelly Olynyk is getting 1/3 the ownership of Talen Horton-Tucker. To me, they are very, 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 very similar plays.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of makes me a little bit interested in Kelly Olynyk. I want to touch on this super chat we got from Goody. He says, good chance Agbaji starts over Dunn with THT at point. Dunn is scary chalk. What do you think of a Ty Jerome pivot in a DK 20 max? How do you feel about Ty Jerome as a pivot off of Dunn?
I was with him all the way until Ty Jerome.
So I can tell you in our boom bust tool, I'll tell you that right off the bat. So we're projecting Ty Jerome for 1% ownership with a 5% chance of booming and a 2.6% chance to be an optimal. So he does have a little bit of positive leverage in the tools.
I mean, he benefited last game from Jordan Poole being in foul trouble. So like,
right.
I don't think Ty Jerome's a particularly good play. I do agree that Chris Dunn is a little bit scarier than projections are giving him credit for.
Okay, so you agree about Dunn, but you don't think you're going to be playing any. I mean, we'll talk about the that game later on, the Golden State Portland game, but probably not your highest priority to pivot to Ty Jerome.
That's not the spot that I would be going to, I don't think.
Yeah, we also had just if you're looking for a pivot at point guard who is cheap, Kendrick Nunn actually earlier in the day. Oh, he's no longer. Earlier in the day, Kendrick Nunn was, I believe, our highest leverage spot on the entire slate. I don't think that it doesn't look like that is the case anymore. I was kind of surprised to see that earlier because I didn't really see any great reason for it other than Kristaps being out, I guess, making him a little bit better, but still actually a positive leverage on Kendrick Nunn. But still not a great projection, not a real priority on this slate. All right, so we have covered the Utah side of things. Anything else that you want to say about the Utah side of things?
No, it's to me, it's those five. And I guess the thing, keep in mind, like, my expectation is Dunn comes off the bench, plays like 22 to 24 minutes. If he starts, then clearly they're playing him alongside Horton-Tucker and have no issues with that. And you can just assume he's playing like 30.
And I guess just because we're talking about whether he starts, if Agbaji starts, will you have any interest in Agbaji?
No.
Okay. Cool. Well, then we can move on from this game. But first, guys, let me tell you about our NBA lineup generator. We've got a deal right now where you can get 50% off your first week of the NBA lineup generator. Then it's $8.95 after that. It's a pretty great deal. This is, you can make lineups that are, we have already weeded out the bad lineups in lineup generator. I did not have Jordan pull this up ahead of time for us, so we won't go into lineup generator. We've only got 15 minutes left, a couple games left to talk about, but you should check out our lineup generator. We've got 50% off, and we've already weeded out all of the negative EV lineups. These are lineups the Stokastic team, some of the best players in the game have found to be plus EV lineups already. They've weeded out the bad ones for you, and they're updated throughout the day. So after we get injury news, after we update our projections and our ownership projections, they update the lineup generator as well. So highly recommend checking it out. And again, we've got a 50% off deal going right now. I believe that is just the link in the description if you want to take advantage of that. So check that out. All right, Adam, we will move on to the next game on the slate, which is, of course, it's the Minnesota game. All right, we've got the Timberwolves at the Clippers. Clippers favored by 6.5, 233 total in this game. We'll start with my Timberwolves. What's your level of interest? Any priorities for you from the Wolves? And who's making it into your player pool?
Nothing that stands out really whatsoever. Anthony Edwards is pretty expensive at 9,600. Kyle Anderson is whatever at 5,600. There's plenty of guys in that price range that look good. Rudy Gobert's salaries come up to 7,700. So, I'd said before, I do expect Gobert to be a better fantasy producer going forward than he has been to this point in the season, just because of his familiarity with Mike Conley and Mike Conley's ability to actually get him the ball and allow him to score, whereas D'Angelo Russell could not and also was not interested in doing it. So I think it should be better for Gobert, but we also just saw like a preemptive price bump to 7,700. So makes it pretty tough to get there. To me, Edwards, Anderson are the guys that I guess could end up in lineups for me. Conley and Gobert, like 1% owned plays, sure, but another team that just isn't all that appealing.
Yeah, sadly, this is not a slate where I can prioritize the Timberwolves either. Just not a great matchup with the Clippers. They don't play at fast paced. They're not bad defensively. So it's just really hard to really want to prioritize the Timberwolves here. And yeah, it's interesting. Gobert has been like around like what, 64, 6,600 for the past month or so. Suddenly he's up to 7,700. Maybe there was an intermittent bump there, but yeah, the price tag has just gotten closer to where it probably should be now, which is unfortunate because I love just playing Timberwolves centers every game. It's either Gobert or it was not Reed. Whoever was starting was too cheap for a while. It doesn't look like we have that anymore. And Gobert, somebody had asked earlier if Naz Reed would become a priority if Gobert is ruled out. I would say yes, but also Gobert is probable here, so I don't think we're going to see Gobert sitting. Anything else you want to say about the Timberwolves?
No.
All right, then let's move on to the other side of the game, the Clippers. We've got everybody healthy except for what is Zubac's status? Zubac's is questionable. Okay, so that is the one interesting spot is Zubac's is questionable. He has been out though for the past few games, right? So Mason Plumlee has already seen a little bit of a price bump, slightly at least. Tell me about the Clippers. Who's any priorities for you? Who's making it into your player pool?
No, another team that doesn't look very good here. Paul George is 8,300, shooting guard, small forward. If they come out and say he's not on a minutes limit, he'd be really, really interesting at that price. There is still a ceiling for him, but the issue is just like right now in regulation, you're seeing 30 to 32 minutes. And so it's pretty tough to expect more than that. And on a 10-game slate where you have so many good payoff options, it's really tough to prioritize him. Kawhi is a bit more expensive, obviously gives you a very high ceiling at 9,200, but pretty much correctly priced. Westbrook at 7,100, played 25 minutes last game, didn't play at all down the stretch. Marcus Morris is super cheap at 3,600 and likely to give you 28 to 30 minutes. The problem is just that he's contending with Russell Westbrook and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard for opportunities. So you're probably, when he does give you that big game at 3,600, it's probably going to be on the back of some abnormal rebounding and or like efficient three-point shooting. It's not like you're really ever going to get a game that the offense goes through Marcus Morris at all. So maybe a little bit too cheap in terms of salary, but nothing that looks great.
Yeah, Marcus Morris played 33 minutes the last game. Great bump there in terms of minutes, and he put up 14 fantasy points. So a little bit of a bummer there. Yeah, I don't see if maybe it says if Zubac is ruled out, would anybody become a priority for you from the Clippers?
No, I mean it would make Plumlee look, a little bit better, but Plumlee didn't. I'm double checking. I'm pretty sure Plumlee didn't even start the second half last game, and that was with Zubac out as well. So
right.
I don't think it would change much. Yeah, Plumlee came off the bench, still played. He played like 24 minutes in regulation. I don't really have any confidence in him.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want to say about the Clippers?
No.
Okay, well, we've got 12 minutes left in just one game. So now I can touch on, since we're on the Timberwolves game, was it the worst trade in NBA history, the Gobert trade?
It's got to be up there.
It's just painful as a Timberwolves fan. That's just, it's going to be painful for like a number of years is the worst thing. It's like during Anthony Edwards' prime, we're just going to be not improving. We're probably going to be a mediocre, like hoping to be in the play-in kind of a team for some. Hopefully, hopefully I'm wrong and Cat will come back and they'll learn to play together. But man, I do not have a lot of confidence in this team.
Yeah, that trade like annoyed me too, because when it was made, I was like, I don't understand this fit. I don't understand what they're doing. But then everybody like loves to blame Rudy Gobert for a lot of shit that doesn't really have to do with Rudy Gobert. So then like I started to find myself on the side of like, Gobert is not the problem. Like it was a shitty trade. It was a dumb trade, but like they started out, playing really poorly. And it was just like, okay, every team that has random new pieces plays poorly out of the gate. And then, you have D'Angelo Russell openly just not trying to play offense with Rudy Gobert. So like, I still don't think, like, I think people still very much underestimate Rudy Gobert as a basketball player, but I also think it was just an unbelievably bad trade.
It was. And once the trade went down, I was like, I don't get it. I don't like this trade at all. And then people talked me into it. Like all my Timberwolves fan friends were like, no, these are the Timberwolves. Nobody comes to the Timberwolves. So you got to trade for stars when you can. So eventually I kind of got talked into it. And then everything went as I had initially thought it would. So I kind of hate that. Nick Ostra says Rosas couldn't keep it in his pants. Timberwolves former GM, is it GM? I forget what his title was exactly. Fun fact, the woman that he was rumored to have had the affair with, I went to high school with her. She was my year. We graduated together. Nice. All right. Yeah, that was fun. Fun to find that out. Hadn't talked to her since high school, so didn't keep in touch, but still fun to find that out. All right, we'll move on.
Kevin Porter Jr. out for Houston.
Okay. Which, does that affect anything? Does that change anything for you?
Not really. Makes Jalen Green look a little bit better. Makes Shane Green look a little bit better.
Right. But still just risky. They've been not really playing huge minutes anyway. They might just be in full tank mode. I guess we'll see if the pattern continues. We have Şengün projected for 31 minutes, so not necessarily assuming there's going to be tanking going on here, but yeah, hard to love anybody anyway. And Jalen Green, maybe a little bit of a boost, but not a huge priority. Oh, we got some super chats. All right, my bad. Let me cool. All right, I will scroll up a minute. All right. My Slack is not working, Jordan, for some reason. It froze and I closed it and reopened it and it's still not working. So I found them. Okay. Jorge Jacome asks, question for the end of the show. Do you like any players to have in 50% or more of your lineups? I didn't save it, I guess, for the end, but we've only got one game left, so we can do this one out. Any players that you like to have in 50% or more of your lineups, Adam?
I haven't built lineups yet, but just based on like what's showing up for me, if I got to 50% of anybody on DraftKings, it would probably be some combination of like Schroeder, Vanderbilt, Joe, Dunn, Horton Tucker. But as I said, like I don't totally love the ownership on especially Joe, Dunn, and Horton Tucker. So once I start like sorting lineups out, I kind of doubt that I get there.
Yeah, I think same for me. I'm not planning on playing 150 tonight.
Yeah, I'm not playing 150.
I haven't entered anything yet tonight. I'm going to trivia right at lock, so I'm actually not going to be around for lock. So I'm undecided on how much I'm going to play. Since I'm not playing 150, I might consider somebody like Bradley Beal, but I would not recommend it for somebody who is playing 150. Just I take bigger stands when I play fewer lineups in general. Yeah. So I would add him as somebody that I would consider playing a good amount of. But yeah, Chris Dunn would probably be Chris Dunn, THT. These are guys that you could consider. Vanderbilt, Beasley, but yeah, nobody that I think necessarily would make it into greater than 50%. All right, let me scroll down and find out.
The problem really, the reason that I really don't know if I would get anybody more than 50% is like there's a lot of really, really comparable plays to each other today. And the players that are standing out the most in terms of separating are also getting tons of ownership. So there's not really any like cheap chalk on this slate that I'm just like, oh, I don't know how I get away from that. It's that yep. I think that there's good cheap plays, but I also think they're really popular.
Yep. And it's also a 10-game slate. As we keep saying, this isn't the 4-game slate that we had yesterday. It's just harder to want to really play anybody in that many lineups unless they are great chalk. And in this case, not really the case. All right. Corey Shea asks, Podol or Claxton? Do you have a preference there, Adam?
I think they're really, really comparable. Let me see. I mean, I have Claxton by like a point.
Okay. That'll do it. Good enough answer for me. Zhaolin verse asks, FanDuel, GPP, stars and scrubs, or balance build. Have you given much of a look at FanDuel for GPPs yet so far?
No.
I wasn't planning on playing FanDuel, but let me pull up the boom bust and see what kinds of players have the best leverage scores.
Yeah, I mean, it looks, just looking at like optimal percentage for FanDuel, it looks pretty similar to what we've talked about for DraftKings. Horton Tucker, Dunn, Wright is 5K. Markkanen's only 8,600. That is worth noting. Like, that's a really cheap price there. So it looks pretty similar, I think, to what we're talking about with DraftKings. Like, you have an abundance of guys in the like 4,500 to 6,500 range. So like if you want to call it balanced where you get like one star and then like a bunch of good players, I probably that. It seems more so that than going like true stars and scrubby where you're just jamming in like 3 pay up guys or something.
Yeah, I would call this a more balanced build where you can hopefully get one stud in there, but it's really hard currently because we just don't have such great value. And on FanDuel, we also have like the Chris Dunn is 4,500. He's not 3,600. THT 5,900 again. We don't have any like $3,500 players on FanDuel among our best plays. So yeah, probably more of a balanced build. All right, so we do still have one game left. I believe we got through all of the super chats. Let me just double check that real quick. Yeah, it looks like we got through all of the super chats. I did do Goody's second super chat. I am 90% sure that I did 2 already, but let me double check. Oh no, I think this is a third maybe. All right, Goody says 0 playing time for Westbrook in the 4th quarter and overtime last game. Was it a close game, defensive problem, or something else? Made no sense. Adam, do you have any thoughts on what happened there with Westbrook? To be honest, I didn't watch the game, so I actually don't have a strong take on this myself. Do you have a take on why Westbrook didn't play at all?
It was a close game. It went to overtime. He didn't play in the 4th. He didn't play in overtime. I wasn't watching the game. My assumption is Russell Westbrook sucks. So they went with Eric Gordon.
If they know Russell Westbrook sucks, then why did they sign Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted him to. I honestly wanted.
I know
him
you
to
did, yeah.
Yeah, badly wanted him to come to the Wizards. I love the way he would fit on the Wizards, but like when you're talking about a team that has Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, like you don't have to give closing minutes to Russell Westbrook.
Right.
He's kind of not that important. So I mean, like it's not to say he's never going to close. He can certainly play 32 minutes or something. But yeah, I think it was just they didn't want him in the closing lineup.
Yep. Makes sense. All right. We have one game left in 5 minutes, and it's a kind of an interesting game. Portland and Golden State. We talked about how much interest we have in Dame Lillard a little bit already. But let's start with the Golden State side of the game. Decent matchup with Portland. How much interest, if any, do you have in these Golden State guys? Any priorities for you?
Not priorities, but I do think that in particular, DiVincenzo, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole are kind of interesting. DiVincenzo, shooting guard, small forward on DraftKings at 5,400. That's just a pretty useful price point. Good positional eligibility. Coming off of a game that he played about 38 minutes. On average, you're going to get like 32, 34, but just kind of a last piece in. And then when you talk about Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole, they're not getting a lot of ownership because there are just so many, good high upside plays you can get to. But Klay Thompson's fully capable of just going out there and, knocking down a million threes. Jordan Poole is not very good in terms of efficiency, but he's going to go out there and shoot a ton, and you're going to have games where the shot falls and you're just getting a 3% owned Jordan Poole, going nuts at 8,500. So they're both at price points where I think they are priced pretty much correctly or even a little bit overpriced for their medium projections. But because they are pretty much the only scorers on this team, you're just going to get enough games where one of them just goes nuclear that they do end up being pretty interesting tournament plays.
Yeah, I think for sure. And it looks like things have flipped a little bit with people have finally given up on Jordan Poole. The last time I did a show where these guys were on the slate, Poole was getting like 17% ownership, and he was a few $100s more than Klay. And I really liked Klay on that slate. Now it looks like Klay's had a couple nice games in a row, and Poole has really been on kind of a cold stretch. So he had, there was a few games, 6 to 8 games back where he put up 46, 52, and 50 fantasy points. But then since then, the last 5 games, Jordan Poole has put up 24 and a half, 41, 27, 30, and 29 fantasy points. So just not hitting his shots. But if the ownership, seeing the ownership come down to 3% for a guy who's willing to chuck it, yeah, I think these guys are both pretty interesting large field GPP plays. Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole, definitely some interest for me there as well. Anything else that you want to say about Golden State?
So I'm just to reiterate on Poole, 17 games played now where Curry's been out and Klay's been in, 33.5% usage rate, 26% assist percentage. The rates are good. The problem is the guy can't shoot. He's like a glorified Dylan Brooks in terms of his ability to actually put the ball in the basket on jump shots. So that's kind of the that's the reason the ownership's low. Is you're talking about somebody that's having an historically bad 3-point shooting season, and he's $8,500. So there's just going to be games where he shits the bed because he misses all of his shots. But then there's also going to be the games where it's just like, oh, Jordan Poole has 55 fantasy points because he actually shot well for once. So the upside's there. It's just there's going to be guys that project better because they're better.
What is the upside for Jordan Poole? You say 55 at 8,500, 55 still might not even do it. Like, do you think he has 60 fantasy one upside, 65?
Best game, probably 60 to 65. I would be happy. Like, you're hoping if you're playing Jordan Poole, like you're hoping he gets 50 plus.
Right. Okay. And I see now that we only have 1 minute left. So we'll flip to the other side of the game, the Portland side, playing against the Warriors, who do play at the fastest place in the entire league. Obviously, Dame, we talked about as somebody we like at the high end, but tell me about your level of interest in these Portland guys. Any priorities? Who's making it into your player pool?
Dame's a priority for me. Right now, he's only pulling like 18 to 20% ownership on DraftKings. So he's pretty much in line with those other guys like Luka, getting a bit more than Morant, similar to Davis. Dame's my favorite guy to get to here. His rates without Anthony Simons on the floor this year are similar to Luka pre Kyrie Irving. 524 minutes, nearly 1,100 possessions for Damian Lillard without Anthony Simons on the floor, 40.5% usage rate, and a 37.5% assist percentage. You can't read too much into the 1.7 to 1.8 fantasy points per minute because he somehow has a 71% true shooting percentage on his 40% usage, which is just like absolutely insane and has to come down. But the rates are there. And, I was saying this morning on the show with Lofty, the thing that I really like is that you're getting that 40+% usage, but the assist percentage is close to 40% as well. So it would be concerning if like you had a 40% usage rate and 22% assist percentage, because over a larger sample, you'd be very likely to see that usage come down and the assist percentage come up. But he's basically just handling every possession for Portland. It's very, very similar rates to what Luka was doing before Kyrie. If you also take Nurkic off the floor, you get a 42.5% usage rate, and he maintains that 37.5% assist percentage. He's also playing a ton of minutes. Like, he's live to play more minutes than anybody on the slate as well. So he just looks great. He's actually my favorite pay up guy to get to. Outside of him, there's not much that I like. If you want to roll the dice on a $3,500 Matisse Thybulle and hope that he accidentally scores some fantasy points, fine. Jeremy Grant has a nice ceiling here just because there's nothing else offensively on this team. Thybulle, Reddish, Eubanks, like these are all low usage guys that just aren't going to do much. In theory, Jeremy Grant can kind of take over as the second option, but also Damian Lillard is like options number 1, 2, and 3. So that's still, right, kind of problematic. I like the ceiling for Grant from a median projection standpoint, or, even a likelihood of success standpoint. He's a pretty low probability play.
Yeah, I was going to call out Grant as somebody that I have some interest in, just that 7,000 price tag. I can see a ceiling from Grant. But yeah, obviously Lillard, the big priority here. We just got news from the news guy that De'Aaron Fox was ruled out. They will cover on Live Before Lock that news, what you want to do, if anything, with that news. We of course talked about it a little bit earlier as well. Doesn't really make anybody a slam dunk, but slight improvements here and there. Adam, you think Damian Lillard is going to be the first player in NBA history to score 70 plus in back-to-back games?
I didn't realize that was a thing.
I have no idea if that is actually a thing. I made that up.
I feel like Wilt probably did it.
Wilt might have done it. He's the only one who could have.
Yeah.
I doubt it's been done, though. All right. Anything else you want to say about this game or this slate, Adam, before we hand it over to Live Before Lock?
I really like Dame, even at the elevated price tag. Dame single-handedly has probably cost me more money than anybody else over the last few years in terms of doing well when I need him not to, and vice versa. So take that for what it's worth, but I will be riding with Dame again tonight.
Cool. All right. Well, guys, thanks for watching. And once again, I only asked this twice to show. I should probably do it more. Please do hit the like button if you haven't already. We've got Live Before Lock coming up next with Greg and Eric once again. So stick around for that. They'll cover all the breaking news and they'll tell you what to do with De'Aaron Fox as well. So stick around. Good luck tonight.
Yo, it's that time of week again where we are inducting you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame, doing all the bragging for you so you don't have to do it yourself, to all these thousands of people watching right now. And of course, giving out free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, every single sport for the entire month, $120 value right here on the Hall of Fame. And all you got to do to get involved, download the avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. And if you're EMAC, download the new one on Yahoo, man. Come on now. And use it wherever you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, No House Advantage, Prize Picks. Doesn't matter where it is. Use it. And when you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, or just have a big hit and you want to show it off, tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF. Get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and get into the Hall of Fame. We kick it off this week with Avi. Man, Avi's had a couple nice wins recently. Honest Avi with $10,000. A very simple thanks, fellas, to Stokastic Hall of Fame. Huge win, man. Congratulations in that one. And actually, matter of fact, that was, one entry. One entry. Okay. Love it. Third out of 30,000 people for Avi. And Jake Hari coming up next. Our own Jake Hari had a bunch of New Jersey 2, PP1, all that good stuff stacks last night, which put me in a good spot to get lucky with one of the few Gibson Duck stacks in my crunch. 5,000 for Jake. He just punched the ticket to the live final recently as well. Arnold took down another one. Thank you guys. $2,000 in the college basketball big jam, followed up by our own Pete McCartney, $20,000. Again, man, change that avatar, brother, but still $20K in the fantasy millionaire and NASCAR millionaire. Congrats to Pete. And EMAC, $4,000. Come on, EMAC. Celebration begins in the wee hours of the morning. That daily NBA DFS building blocks article is still somehow free. Yes, his article, a popular one, free every day at stokastic.com. Seems like a must read, he said. We'll self-promotion from EMAC, but I appreciate it. And Professor, Nice little afternoon pump using the Stokastic NBA brains. Huge, $1,000, second place in the NBA shot, followed up by Rod Dog. Rod Dog would make a lot more sense there. Second time in the Hall of Fame. Thanks, Stokastic. $690 win. And Arnold back in the same day on this one. I had a good weekend. Thank you guys. 200, 532, 100. Some big wins for Arnold coming in twice. And Laura Cope, I don't always play PGA DFS, but when I do, I am in a twosome with Stokastic, and this is how I approach the green. Thanks. $100 win. First place in the dime. Not easy to win that one. A lot of entries. Philip Still, thank you guys for the great content. Not a big hit, but 17 in the 617 isn't bad. Thanks, Lafayette and Josh, for the insight. You're damn right, man. Congratulations. And Mitchell W. King. Always enjoyable and informative information to listen to Eric and Greg on Live Before Lock. First place in the quarter jukebox. And you guys know, doesn't matter if it's a nickel, a quarter, a dime, as long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here and you're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. John Harbison, we want to give a big shout out to the whole family at Stokastic Hall of Fame. You guys are running the show and bringing folks along with you. Third place in the high five, $500. And finally, Michael Diaz, double OT, and a field goal made from Kawhi or Fox knocked me out of first. Late swapping to 7% Isaiah Joe made the difference. Thanks for the content. 150, third place in the mini max. Remember, stokastic.com/avatar. Download it. Use it anywhere. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF, and we'll see you back here next week.
Having a nice day, Jordan.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock show, and pretty big slate here. We've got 10 games and news that just broke that we're about to be breaking down because De'Aaron Fox was ruled out. He was questionable. We're going to be talking about the implications of that in a second. But what you guys could do for us is very simple. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also shout out to No House Advantage, who is sponsoring our show today. Eric, what's happening with you? What's going on? You're very worked up today.
No, I'm doing great. I'm in control, like Animal from the Muppets. Feeling awesome. Feeling good, feeling great. Feeling great, feeling good. How are you?
Doing better than you, it would appear.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and also I've got that Jordan. Also, Jordan's been very engaged lately. He's enjoyed the shows the last couple of days way more than he has in previous days. So it's good to see Jordan in high spirits in the background over there. It's always good to see. And yeah, let's just get right into this, though, because this is going to be a big one in terms of all the injury news. We've got, like I said, De'Aaron Fox was just ruled out. But in addition to that, we've got Jamal Murray officially listed as questionable. Trey Jones is questionable. That's going to matter later. Your guy, Ivica Zubac, he's questionable. That could matter later. And, a lot of injuries that are spaced out over the course of the night. But first and foremost, De'Aaron Fox being out. What are we doing with this kind of information?
Yeah, we're going to play some Terrence Davis in our lives. And this is kind of, I'm assuming what happens is that you maybe get Davion Mitchell. But what I think this opens up is 3,700 shooting guard, small forward eligible Terrence Davis to just play an allotment of minutes that makes him pretty viable. He's over a fantasy point per minute producer. There have been a lot of situations where he plays over 20 minutes in these spots where De'Aaron Fox doesn't play. And you don't necessarily have to worry about him starting. I believe Davion Mitchell will get the start. I don't know if that makes me all that enthusiastic at 3K. There were periods of time last season where he was actually decent from a fantasy point per minute perspective, but he is out there for defensive purposes. He's a sub 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy. Assuming he's the one who gets the start, maybe he shows up in some 150 type builds, but I'm making 30 lineups today. I don't think he's going to make his way into it, but Terrence Davis, definitely the one that I've got my eye on.
It's crazy. We've had so many, well, not so many slates here. We've had a few slates this year where Mitchell's moved into the starting lineup. He's been chalky. If memory serves correct, he's sucked in just about all of them.
Every single one.
I'm going to pull up his game log right now. Like some of them were salvageable where it's like, oh, look, he scored 18 fantasy points, which actually is what happened last game. Last start for Davion Mitchell. He played 29 minutes, scored 17.5 fantasy points. I remember this doozy. Start against the Indiana Pacers, 22 minutes where he scored 5.75 fantasy points. And then his other starts this year, 15 fantasy points, 21.5, 16.25. Some of these outings, if you're getting 21 fantasy points out of a min price, not the end of the world, but he's been super popular in all of these outings. And I even dug up some old tweets from Kings fans. I was just wondering, what were they saying about Davion Mitchell back in the day? And it was like, as soon as they traded Tyrese Halliburton, it's like, well, we have Mitchell and he's better anyway. God. So it's, I don't, but by the way, it was a terrible take last year, but I don't know what has happened to him this year that he's become just considerably shittier.
I think we can find some type of reasons. I mean, Malik Monk sharing the floor with him, Kevin Huerter being somebody who's inserted into that starting lineup. I think that's been a very underlooked part of the season for both him and for the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's actually a serviceable basketball player. Yep. He's more known for being the redhead guy that Dwayne Wade really likes because it was his favorite player growing up, and they had the jersey swap towards the end of Dwayne Wade's career. But like Kevin Huerter, confirmed mattering on a basketball team. He mattered for Atlanta. I think that might be an underlooked part. There's just more bodies there. Another half of the season with Domantas Sabonis, after last season where he was acquired at the deadline. I think there's a number of ways to maybe look at the construction of the lineup where there's just not as much fantasy opportunity for somebody like Davion Mitchell, who, he's a sub, he's not very tall. He's 6 foot flat. He's a 26th percentile 3-point shooter, shoots 32.6% from there. Not a good rebounder. Assist rates meandering around 70%, what you'd expect for a starting point guard and backup duty. Like, he's not very good from an offensive perspective. And you look through some of his shooting charts and stuff like dunks and threes, nothing he does is going to impress you in that regard. So like you have a Malik Monk, you have a Kevin Huerter, you have Keegan Murray acquired as a top pick. Like there's a lot of new faces out there who are far more important in the pecking order to get shots up. And
it's also looking at Davion Mitchell here. And I'm with you. He's been such a shitty fantasy producer this year that even if you give him, 29, 20 minutes, he doesn't really look exceptional relative to what he's done this year. And then also think, his points per minute production, a lot of his come off the bench. Now he's in the starting lineup where he's sharing the court with all those guys you mentioned who are just higher usage guys. It's going to be tough for me to get to Davion Mitchell. I've played him a bunch in other starts this year. Have you also sunk in with Davion Mitchell at times this season?
Only once or twice. I think I was pretty quick to realize how many guys were out there with the hot hand approach. I mean, I just talked about Terrence Davis. He's like the beginning of the line. Like I have interest in Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray. Everybody is going to show up in some type of lineups. I think Malik Monk and Terrence Davis are my favorites because this is a pretty large slate. And if you're going to smash a slate, it might as well be the guys who are really good fantasy point per minute guys. Of course, Domantas Sabonis is there, but I think he's going to get really, really popular really, really quickly. He's sub 10K now without those guys. I think he's going to be distributing. I mean, I wish I'd bet him for some other things. I guess 20.5 was his points prop over at NHA a little bit ago. I wish I had taken an over maybe there, but even still, he'll be out there creating. There's just so many other guys who get shots up there that aren't Davion Mitchell. So even if he starts there, I just don't think I can get there because what does 24 fantasy points from Davion Mitchell do for me?
Well, also, I don't think he should be projected for 24.
No, I haven't projected for 20, but I'm saying like, if I have a good game from Davion Mitchell, there are going to be so many lineup spots, iterations on a 10-game slate where like 24 isn't cutting it for you. Like you want to get 30 from just about every lineup spot. And if you told me who's more likely to go for 30, him or Terrence Davis, I'll take Terrence Davis, especially if it's going to be somebody who's not announced as starting and is going to be way lower owned.
Yeah, and we did get the starting lineup, by the way, as we were talking to this. Davion Mitchell has been confirmed as the starter, so not anything really unexpected there because like we were saying, Davion Mitchell has been starting in the absence of De'Aaron Fox. And let me go to that last game. Let me see.
God, I hope he gets popular. Please get popular, Davion Mitchell.
He's not going to be popular.
I know he's not, but one can dream. Then again, Chris Dunn is popular today, and oh boy, I got takes.
Let's see, Davion Mitchell. We could talk about that in a second. Also,
I have 0% Chris Dunn is what I'm getting at.
Last game we saw with De'Aaron Fox out, some of the minutes allocations. We got, well, this is actually isn't, the game is a blowout. It's not going to be the best. Let's go to how about this? The last game that De'Aaron Fox was out, that was actually a competitive game. February 3rd against the Pacers. What were the minutes in that game? We got 38 out of Sabonis, 35 out of Barnes. We got 36 out of Herter. We got 18 out of Terrence Davis, 28 out of Malik Monk, and 22 out of Davion Mitchell.
What'd you say out of Terrence Davis again? That was the only one.
18 that game.
18, yeah. Again, he's risky. He's not somebody that you're going to feel comfortable with, but he's going to be like 1 or 2%. Davion Mitchell might get a little bit of ownership. Again, I don't think Terrence Davis gets popular. I will say I like pretty much everybody who's starting for Sacramento, not named Davion Mitchell.
I'm looking through. I'm going to actually have a tough time getting to Terrence Davis looking through this. I don't think his minutes are that impacted by De'Aaron Fox being out. So here are the minutes, just all of the games we've seen lately. Well, I'll go through all of the games this year, actually, without De'Aaron Fox.
Thank you.
Terrence Davis, last game without De'Aaron Fox, he played 15 minutes. The game before that, which was the one I brought up before, he played 18 minutes. All right, then we have to go back to December 11th. Terrence Davis played 9 minutes in that game with De'Aaron Fox out. The game before, December 9th, Terrence Davis played... He was a DNP coach's decision in that game without De'Aaron Fox. Game before... I don't think I could project him for very many minutes.
Interesting.
And the game before that, without De'Aaron Fox, he played 8 minutes. He's not played over 20 minutes in a single game that Fox has been out this year.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing was he had the surprise start. It was on the 14th against Toronto. He went out and put up a pretty nice serviceable game there on a slate where we needed value. I mean, we've seen also of late, he's played 32, 18 off the bench. He's just at least been a part of this rotation a little bit more predominantly than he had been in the past. So it's just like, it's a different set of circumstances. Obviously, he's only played 13, 14, 18 in some of these, but there's still, when you're over a fantasy point per minute producer like this, I mean, him, Malik Monk, either of them coming off the bench, and one is going to get all the ownership and all the land. One's going to get none of it. So again, I'm still going to have a little bit.
All right, let's start hitting on some of these super chats that are coming in. We are starting it off here with, here it is. Cheshire Cat. What do you know of this? I don't even know who he's talking about. Because I know that this is supposed to be a troll in some way.
I have no idea. I don't know.
All right. I mean, I'll read it. He left us $20, so I'll just read it. He wants to know, what do we think of this Jizz Gang?
Oh, Johnny Juzang is who he's talking about.
Oh, that's
Johnny
what,
Juzang.
that's what he means?
Yeah, UCLA dude up from the G League. He was like the NCAA darling that year UCLA rattled it off during the pandemic 2020. So, or 2021 it would have been. There was no NCAA tournament 2020. But yeah, Johnny Juzang, no thank you.
I mean, I assume it was just a troll so he could make up the name Jizz Gang to throw in there. But yeah, that would be a no. For
being phonetically correct, it would be Zang at the end of it. There's no jism to be found.
That is not what Cheshire Cat says. He says that his name is Jizz Gang.
These are lies.
Next super chat.
Okay.
John Bryant, top player at each position on DraftKings. All right, so I could go through for myself right now, and I'm going to have to run a little bit more lineups just because of the news that we got in not too long ago that's going to impact the slate, obviously De'Aaron Fox being out. But as things are right now, just like an initial look, I have Luka at point guard, Talen Horton-Tucker at shooting guard, small forward, also THT. So I'll say Bradley Beal at shooting guard, Talen Horton-Tucker at small forward, power forward, Jared Vanderbilt, and center for me is Sabonis right now.
Lovely. Do you want me to do the same thing? Is that what we're asking for right now?
Ahead.
All right. So Dennis Schroeder, my highest owned point guard. At shooting guard, Malik Beasley. At small forward, Talen Horton-Tucker. At power forward, Jared Vanderbilt. And at center, Sabonis at the moment. But I'm going to try to figure some stuff out to get lower because, again, I expect him to be crazy popular when we update everything.
And now Steven Leibowitz has left us a super chat. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Steven.
Thank you.
Which DK chalk are you underweight to the field to? And I think this is perfect timing because I already know what your answer is going to be because you kind of had alluded to Chris Dunn before. So it's teed up for you now. And I don't know what to do with the minutes between Chris Dunn and Taylor Horton-Tucker. So I want to hear why your guy, I assume your answer is going to be Chris Dunn. So why Chris Dunn?
Chris Dunn is point guard only. He's 3,600. Okay. I get it. He's cheap. He came off of a 40 piece, played 23 minutes, but it was a blowout against San Antonio. You're basically saying, I expect the exact same game script. I expect a blowout once again, because it was 17 minutes in a competitive spot against OKC. And Chris Dunn is not a great fantasy. Like, we've seen opportunities where, with Atlanta, and specifically, I'm just thinking of Minnesota when he was a complete nothing. He is not that dude. And maybe it's a part of his game that he's acquired in his year off, but my God, Chris Dunn is not a good basketball player. And I am befuddled is the right word by the fact that he is 50% owned, because if you had told me that a bench player, again, if he starts, completely different conversation, play 100%, get to all of it you can. But one, I don't think he starts. Two, I don't think the ownership reacts the way that it's supposed to after lock. And three, you can only play him in 3 lineup spots, period. So if he doesn't get to start, he is completely useless and a terrible piece of chalk at 3,600. I have 0%, zero interest whatsoever.
So here's the other part of this that I don't know what to do with. We also have a really popular Taylor Horton-Tucker. Neither of them played a ton last game. And I know there was a blowout. I know there was a lot of things. I have a bunch of Taylor Horton-Tucker right now.
Me too.
And I don't really know what to do with it because I don't know how to project his minutes. He only played 24 last game. He basically split the point guard minutes with Chris Dunn. Part of it was definitely due to the blowout, but how much of it? If the game was competitive, was THT going to play 27 minutes? 28? Was he going to play north of 30? What do you think his playing time looks like?
I don't know. I think part of it also, the main change is you got to think about Clarkson being out now too. I understand that Chris Dunn probably has a path to play minutes where they could split the floor pretty easily, but Taylor Horton-Tucker is shooting guard, small forward eligible. I assume he starts. I assume Chris Dunn does not. Under those given circumstances, I don't understand the ownership. I just don't. I refuse to play a chalky bench piece at 3,600 that everybody and their dog is on. I don't get it. It is the absolute, I'm trying to think of the right word. It is box score chasing at its finest. It is truly egregious, because if you had seen 23 minutes and 20 fantasy points next to his name there, I don't think anybody assumes he's starting. I think Agbaji starts. I think Agbaji sucks. I think he's a terrible fantasy producer. I liked him at Kansas. I don't really know what happened, but I'm pretty positive that Chris Dunn is not starting. And just under that assumption, how do you click on that name whatsoever? I think THT is locked into minutes. You talked about it beforehand. It was complete blowout central. So Taylor Horton-Tucker can do things from a fantasy perspective. Over a fantasy point per minute this season, Chris Dunn in the past has not been that dude. He's had flashes, way back with Minnesota. He's had flashes with Atlanta, but my God, he is not a good fantasy producer. I am not a big fan of this play.
So let's see. What do I have for my Chris Dunn exposure as I'm rerunning lineup? So I'm not going to be at 0% like it seems like you are, but I have him in 10% of my lineups right now, because I still think there's opportunity for him to play it, which I assume is going to be well underneath the field, but still is going to be opportunity for him, I think, to play some of the Jordan Clarkson minutes. So like I said, I don't have 0%, but I think 10% is still should be well short of the field.
Oh yeah. I love where you're at there. Again, This is what drives me nuts, because somebody else was bringing it up about how I liked Metu the other day on FanDuel or whatever. I said play Naz Reid 100% on FanDuel, period. I didn't play on FanDuel that slate, but I was saying if I were on FanDuel, I would have 100% Naz Reid. He puts up a nuclear bomb, like an absolute nuke. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that 3,600, I don't think he starts. If he starts, completely different situation. I will try to get myself to as much as possible. And I don't think it'll be that hard considering how much Taylor Horton-Tucker I have. I really like Lauri Markkanen as a pay-up option. I really like Kelly Olynyk. I like a lot of other pieces of this game. Walker Kessler. I just don't like him under the assumption that he's not starting. And people are asking who else plays the minutes. I think legitimately you have a chance for Agbaji to play a lot more minutes than you think. I think there's a chance he plays 32, 34. He played 39 minutes in that start against Memphis. he's still one of their top picks. I mean, I don't think he's any good. He hasn't proven anything at an NBA level, but like, I'd be more inclined to play him at 3,800 than Chris Dunn at 3,600, assuming Agbaji is the one who starts.
I'm not going to play Agbaji. I'm
not playing him. I have like 4%, but I'm saying that like I'd be more inclined to play him than I would be Chris Dunn under these set of circumstances.
Now, if Chris Dunn starts, I know you said it's going to be a different scenario if it starts, but so we could prevent you from getting all upset and people tweeting at you like crazy.
Oh, I don't care. I have 0.
If Chris Dunn starts, though, then what are you going to do with him? I know you said
I will try to get to 100%. This is a vehement stand against him starting. This is a vehement stand against him being a 1.4 fantasy point per minute producer like we've seen in his 2 games this season.
Some more super chats. Malukar, my guys, tip to tip. Thanks for everything. Malukar, just for you, my young friend. He left us a super chat. He's asking for it, Eric. Well, Eric is playing hard to get today. Ace of Spade, DK tiers. I'll read it off. You could sit this one out, Eric. We've got the DK
that sounds
tier.
good. I was gonna say I can't believe how many people Dunn doesn't need to start to smash. I'm floored by how many people are like standing up for Chris Dunn here. The dude was out of the NBA. He is terrible. He's terrible. He's awful. What are we talking about here?
Tier 1 of the tiers, to answer our guy Ace of Spades question. Tier 1, Nikola Jokic for me. Tier 2, Anthony Davis. Tier 3, Domantas Sabonis. Tier 4, Lauri Markkanen. Tier 5, PG-13, Paul George. Tier 6, I have Bradley Beal. So those are the guys across each tier for you, Ace of Spade. Thank you for the super chat. Tank, the shy guy, Halliburton and Edwards, Kawhi Leonard, or Lauri Markkanen. Appreciate as usual. Let's see. So I guess here we're taking pricing out of consideration. It's just which of these guys do we like the most? To read these off again, Eric. Halliburton, Edwards, Kawhi Leonard, Lauri Markkanen. I know of those players I have the most exposure to Markkanen, but part of that's going to be price point related. If we are totally removing price from it, who would it be for me? It's actually still Markkanen.
I love Lauri Markkanen today.
Yep, still Markkanen.
With you.
Next question here is from...
I've never seen chat hate on me for something more than a Chris Dunn take ever. I'm floored. He's going to be like 70% owned.
You do not read chat enough if you think that's the case.
Oh my God. Okay, that's probably true. I don't want Dunn unless you got buns, hun. How about
the thing that's funny too is people are so outraged about it that it's really screwing on my ability to read super chats because the chat's moving so quick to bury Eric that I can't read questions like Don Icewood saying it's Luka's birthday. Is he going for a big night? He is my favorite pay up option for today.
Okay. Damian Lillard's mind.
But I think there's not one guy that I would consider to be like a no-brainer. Like, I think Sabonis warrants consideration. Anthony Davis. It's hard to play Jokic today in classic content just because of the amount of center options we have. But yeah, so I like Sabonis, Luka, AD without LeBron. There's a number of pay-up options to get to. There's not one guy that I'm going like super, super crazy with. But anyway, he's somebody that you are going to be at the field, overweight or underweight too. And I'll read this off as well. Luka is currently projected for 17% ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's projected for 14. I am overweight to both those numbers.
I'm a little bit overweight to Luka, but I have all the Lillard in all the land.
All of it.
All of it. I have an undying love. One, he doesn't share a floor with Kyrie Irving. Two, the guy that he would share a floor with who would eat up a lot of usage is out. Anthony Simons played a lot last slate, going to play a lot this slate. Did I expect 93 fantasy points and 71 real points against Houston? No, I did not. But like, he just has a different world of projection with no Simons on the floor.
This is just going to be a Johnny Jizz Gang slate. I could feel Johnny it now.
Jizz Gang. Oh man, could you imagine? One day you're going to be married and you're going to realize it's a little weird when I'm 35 married, and I'm talking about jizz gang on a stream in front of 3,200 people.
Well, I'm 32 years old. I do not envision myself being married by 35. We'll see. We'll see. So Tex, FanDuel, GPP single entry, center spot, Gafford or Olynyk. Thanks, guys. I prefer Olynyk today.
Yeah, I like everybody from, oh my God, the Bulls. Oh, it's a disaster.
Bulls starting lineup is Beverly, Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, Vooch. That's not that.
I thought Patrick Williams was going to start. I bet Patrick Williams. Again, this is purely for me. This is purely not for DFS purposes. This is me taking a bet on over 7.5 points for Patrick Williams. Hopefully off the bench in his 22 minutes, he can still get there. But my God, I mean, Beverly and Caruso in the starting lineup against Toronto, assuming that they come in with the Monstars, Fred VanVleet at the point, and then OG, Scotty Barnes, Siakam, and Pirtle, like I expect. Like, who between Caruso, like, I'm just imagining that lineup. It looks pretty funny to me.
And we just got the Lakers starting lineup, which is significant because of the injury to
Schroeder
on LeBron James. The Lakers starting Dennis Schroeder. And by the way, D'Angelo Russell also out. Should add that in. Lakers are going to be starting Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, Troy Brown Jr., Vanderbilt, Anthony Davis. Anything unexpected there? And what are we doing? What are we doing with the Lakers in the absence of LeBron? I know for me, I mentioned I like AD as a pay-up option. I think Vanderbilt is one of the best points per dollar plays on the entire slate. Good piece of chalk, in my opinion. Vanderbilt. I like Jared Vanderbilt. What else are you doing with the Lakers?
Yeah, I'm playing Dennis Schroeder. I'm playing Jared Vanderbilt. I talked about Schroeder being my highest down at the point guard position. Talked about Vanderbilt being my highest down at power forward. Malik Beasley at 4,500. He's going to have to go out and chuck. It's a team that I think is going to be very, 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 very no good, very, very bad, very soon, like today. But you should have a lot of them in DFS.
Yeah, this is not a good Lakers team right now. And, it's funny. You and I were talking about yesterday. We were talking about Lakers to miss the playoffs. They're minus 290. I kind of had some remorse that I didn't just bet them minus 290 to miss the playoffs. It's a big number, but God, this team just absolutely sucks.
There's no chance anymore. Anthony Davis, over under on number of games he misses the rest of the way too. Like, are you going to play him on back-to-backs? Are you going to play him like he's going to have to play 37 minutes a night like he did against Dallas to go out and win a basketball game? And he's going to have to be exceptional. And he's a guy that, against Memphis, this is the second best team adjusted defensive rating in the NBA, first overall. It's like, they're not exactly, Jaren Jackson Jr., you can see the case for foul trouble immediately, but I definitely think Anthony Davis, if you've got him in year-long suite DFS, he's going to be a hit and miss guy, but like, woof to this basketball team. We just should roster them because I don't know what you're supposed to do when you have these cheapo guys starting for them.
And then any peripheral guys that we should be looking at here. It's funny too. Look at some of like Lakers fans were tweeting at me that I don't know ball. I don't know what I'm talking about because I didn't think like Rui Hachimura was going to save the Lakers season. And now he's like kind of a forgotten piece of the rotation, but potential opportunity for him today. Troy Brown Jr. is starting. Any of these other guys were a little more off the radar for the Lakers that we should be looking at?
Austin Reeves would be somebody that you could, I just don't see it today. 3,400 for him, 3,200 for Lonnie Walker. I suppose if you did the blowout narrative, like you've done at other times with like a Drummond or something, that like Mo Bamba at 3,300, but not today. It's a 10-game slate, a lot better places to go than the bench pieces of the Lakers.
Just to trigger the people, right?
Oh my God.
Just to trigger the people. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Troy Brown Jr. or Chris Dunn?
Troy Brown Jr.
There we go.
Oh man. Am I really do I believe that? I just got to make sure because like, I didn't think that I felt as strongly against it. I thought it was a pretty clear cut thing that Chris Dunn was overowned. I thought it was the public sentiment, and for it not to be, and for me to be ransacked the way that I just was, I'm not sure what to make of it. My feelings are hurt a little bit.
Whatever happens,
Dunn. I do hate Chris Dunn. He was supposed to save the Timberwolves. We were supposed to have a defensive piece that was brought along, and that didn't happen.
Whatever your feedback is you get on this, it can't be worse than what I got when Derek White had his game.
Oh, that's true. You're an idiot.
Yeah, it can't be worse than that. So that's like the baseline of getting trolled for a take that doesn't work out, I think. Some more super chats. Orton's neckbeard. Who is the highest boom percentage on DraftKings? Let's see if we have everything updated.
I have something to show you.
Yeah, just going to make sure that we have the ownership updated and everything.
I was so right about this. The Raptors starting Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent goes back to the bench, Barnes, Siakam, Pirtle. Who is Patrick Beverley going to guard on the floor? Fred VanVleet, who's Alex Caruso going to guard on that floor? Scotty Barnes is 6'8". What am I missing here?
Ball, you just don't know ball. I mean, you don't even think Chris Dunn is good.
I don't. I really don't.
By the way, you know who also doesn't think Chris Dunn is good? Basically every single NBA team who didn't give him an opportunity.
Yeah, but apparently I'm coming in with like this crazy hot take that if Chris Dunn doesn't start, I'm an idiot.
I will pull this up as well because our guy here, Orton's Neckbeard, wants to know who is the highest boom percentage on DraftKings. I will say this. The two most negatively leveraged players we have right now in the boom bust tool are Dennis Schroeder and Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn being the most negatively leveraged, right up there with Dennis Schroeder for us right now. As for the highest boom percentage, though, it is Chris Dunn.
Yeah, Caruso is a phenomenal defender. There's no doubt about it. It's just, I thought for sure that they would just put Patrick Williams out there for his length and size. And again, whatever.
Length and size reminds me of my old mate Rodney Magruder. Some more. Getting back to Orton's Neckbeard. He wanted to know who is the highest boom rating. Here, the most boomable, the players that are booming the most is the biggest boomers. These are the biggest boomers we have tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Boom of the night, Chris Dunn is number 1. Taylor Norton Tucker is 2. Jared Vanderbilt is 3. Malik Beasley 4. Bradley Beal 5. And then we've got Sabonis 6. Luka Doncic 7. I will say this, though. You have to look at that in relation to the ownership as well. Because, like I said, we have Chris Dunn with the highest boom score on the entire slate, while also being the most negatively leveraged player on the entire slate.
What are we doing with Josh Giddey today?
I am playing him. I think his minutes last time were mostly a result of it being a back-to-back.
I thought so too, and I feel as though I'm going to die on this hill. Like, I have a lot of Josh Giddey.
You could only die on so many hills in one night.
I'm going to die on multiple hills today. It's going to be like the Revolutionary War, and you know the it's coming from every direction, and I roll down the hill, and they keep shooting, and yeah, I'm going to die on multiple hills. I'm just going to keep rolling down the hill. That was very vivid and very patriot of me. The Patriots.
Christopher has left us a super chat.
Cool.
Agbaji is a lock. Statement game imminent. Be early. Don't chase. Be an Eric or Greg. Rock chalk. Here's the issue with Agbaji. And like, if you're playing a handful of lineups and you have him in, 1 or 2 lineups, it's not the end of the world. I'm not playing him, but he is absolute dog shit as a fantasy producer this year. Like beyond terrible. So Agbaji this season has now made how many starts? 2 starts for Agbaji. He's averaging about 30 minutes in those starts and 14 fantasy points. The last 3 games, he has played 31, 22, 39 minutes. He scored 22, 24, and 22 fantasy points. So better than what it's been. But once again, the start before that, by the way, he played 18 minutes. He scored 7 fantasy points, got into some foul trouble. For the year, Agbaji's just not been a good fantasy producer. He is putting up about 0.6 fantasy points per minute. Not great.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
But I get him as a pivot off of Chris Dunn.
Okay.
I'm not playing him though. Jorge Giacomi, would you rank the pay-up options for today? Would you have more of them? Who would have more from them greater than 10K? Eric. Okay. Let me read this again.
Oh,
would you rank the pay-up guys for today? Who would you have more of from them greater than 10K? Eric, don't be mad, please. Okay, so I just basically rank the pay-up options.
Rank the pay-up options. Great. I just said Jonas Valanciunas questionable tomorrow. That won't be a headache whatsoever. Looking forward to that one on
Josh
a 9-game
also
slate.
Questionable tomorrow.
Oh, God. Tyson Daniels and Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who has to play in that situation.
Hernan-Gomez. You don't even know which Hernan-Gomez you're going to lose money with tomorrow.
Oh, Guillermo. Sorry. Juancho just got released by Toronto. That's right.
Played the same minutes as his brother, though.
He did. But one is a movie star and one is not.
This is true. One is friends with Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
so in terms of pay up options, now that I have stuff,
Jokic, 1-2 for me.
I find it hard to get up to Jokic today.
Oh, I will play Jokic today. Are you kidding me?
It's just because, so if I could only play one of them today, I'd rather play Anthony Davis than Nikola Jokic. And by the way, Jamal Murray was just real good.
That was timely. Well, I'm probably with you now.
I mean, it's just Anthony Davis, LeBron out. Yeah. At least where the Lakers are right now, they are going to be pushing for the playoffs. You mentioned before, like what happens with Anthony Davis in a week, 2 weeks from now. It'll go probably a little further down the line, 3-4 weeks from now. If the Lakers are still on the out to the playoffs, maybe then you start to limit AD. I think he plays a massive role in the short term, though.
I agree. Till he dies, and hopefully not today.
If he dies, he dies. So for me, now that I have everything updated, he said specifically, though, for the players who are over 10K. So for me, now that I have stuff updated, Anthony Davis 1, Luka Doncic 2, and then it would be Nikola Jokic 3, Damian Lillard 4.
Okay, I don't completely hate it, but Lillard is 1 for me. Sabonis is not popular. He's still sub 10%.
Have we done an ownership update?
Yeah, sure have.
I like that.
I do too. That's why I wanted to point it out.
I mean,
Kevin Huerter, the guy that I'm getting to the most, not named Malik Monk.
There's so many centers to like today. Once again, another reason that it's kind of difficult to just load up on Jokic, but like I want to play Sabonis, Kessler, Anthony Davis, Sabonis, Olynyk. Well, at least Olynyk and Vanderbilt also have power forward eligibility. There are so many centers to get to tonight. Next super chat we have here is from Goody. Frank Jackson better than Dunn, and Frank sucks. For once, I agree with Eric. Dunn, horrible chalk. 1 vote for Eric.
Let's go. 1 is all I need. It's like Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me? And there she comes with.
It's literally just Goody.
It's literally just Goody. I said it's Jerry Maguire. That's literally the scene. It's Renee Zellweger picking up the computer and walking out. Let's go.
Yep. You and Goody. You and Goody.
By the way, complete me. You complete.
You know what else completes us? No house advantage, because they sponsor the show. They help us keep the lights out around here, and you guys should be supporting them as well. If you haven't signed up there's a bunch of overlay. Jordan, actually check for me how much overlay there is over there. And if you guys haven't signed up, use the link we have below, because you get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and access to a bunch of overlay. Jordan's about to read off the number. I don't know what it is, but I think there's a pretty good chance there's overlay. And then the post-lock show, we're going to be talking about some of the props that you could play against the house over on NHA and build out a parlay card. Jordan.
It's full. The contest is full.
Oh my God, it's full? This has never happened on one of these shows before. Good for you.
Let's go.
Guys, you went and filled out the contest. By the way, just ruined the ad read, but it's good. We filled the contest. Sign up in No House Advantage. You can still play props against the house, and we've got projections for them over at Stokastic.com. NBA Bet Pro, our tool, which you get a 7-day free trial to by using the link below. We've got all of the NHA props in there. We've also got, if you're in a state that has legal sports betting and you have access to DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, all that, that's all included in NBA Bet Pro as well. Let's get back to the super chats.
Greg Magruder agrees with me. That's very important information too.
Jay, highest projected lineup for OKC versus Kings. Jay, post-lock show, I'm going to run showdown lineups for you, and then we could do it as long as that's okay with you, just so we could get these other questions out of the way that are a little bit more pressing. But Jay, I'm going to be running lineups for you, and we'll answer that. Zhao Lin verse, top 3 games to target for a FanDuel GPP and a cheap flyer for tonight. All right, top 3 games to target. I like this question. What would you consider to be the top 3 games to target? It's kind of weird because I think there's individual teams to target, but not necessarily games I'm stacking.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're doing it by that questioning, I would say Lakers, Memphis, Sacramento, OKC, San Antonio, Utah. But as you just alluded to, those are the 3 that we just simply are targeting the most because those are the players the most. If you made me pick a game that I thought was just like undervalued where there were pieces that were low owned on both sides of it, I would probably go Portland Golden State. Like there's still an opportunity for a lot of things to change up here. Like one, I think Jordan Poole having Draymond Green out there probably, I don't know. It feels like one of those spots where like it hasn't been there and now everybody's off. And I want to be over on 3% Jordan Poole because I think just floor spacing, Draymond Green being able to create for him. He shot the ball so abysmally, poorly, unbelievably bad. And Klay Thompson, I know in Odd Chopper, one of our favorite props was like the over of his like 36.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. But I think Jordan Poole, having Draymond Green out there who's probable, I think that's a really good thing for him. And then I talked about Lillard on the other side. I'm just kind of in love with getting to him. I'm taking some shots on Cam Reddish again, who, you know, it's more to do with the shooting guard, small forward eligibility. He's been playing low 30s minutes, and I'm projecting him out a little bit better. So I think that game environment is one that's just a little bit underappreciated.
I could understand that. But once again, my answer is just going to be related to the teams, which Eric laid out before. I just don't have games I'm stacking to. There's too much value for me to say, hey, I really want to load up on stacking any individual, teams or anything like that, because you're just foregoing too much and you're going to be jamming in plays that I don't think are all that good.
Agreed.
The next super chat that we have is from, and by the way, Jay, the reason I have to rerun lineups, you usually ask me about the showdown slate for the last game of the night. You picked one in the middle of the slate, and that I wasn't prepared for that. So I'm rerunning.
Very sneaky, sir. Very sneaky.
Also, Jalen Verse wants to know, we forgot about this part. Cheap flyer for tonight's slate, and he's asking for FanDuel. Cheap flyer. FanDuel. Let's see. Cheap flyer. Who would I consider? And I guess what salary as well?
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of the question. If it's sub 6K, I would obviously go like Taylor and Horton Tucker and Dennis Schroeder. If you're talking like sub 5K, which I would think of more of as a cheap flyer, like you could play Chris Dunn if he starts. But again, I'm playing 0%, assuming that he doesn't start. And then, I mean, there are not a lot of great options sub 5K on FanDuel today. I would go probably Harrison Barnes at 4,900.
Yeah, I don't mind that, especially now that we have, obviously De'Aaron Fox out. I'm looking to see if anything really stands out to me in the boom bust tool, but even our highest leverage projected plays, it's like Jeremy Sochan, it's Luka Doncic. I'll say I know it's not exactly cheap, but Sochan is our number one projected leverage play over on FanDuel. $5,400 for a guy that has shown to have upside and has gotten a lot better as the year has gone on as well. I'm going to say Sochan, 5,400. I'm going to make him my answer. I don't think you want to punt that much on FanDuel today.
Agreed. You shouldn't have to.
Yeah, that as well. There's a lot of good plays in the mid range. Teddy Wayman wants to know favorite small forward on FanDuel for $4,200 or under. Let's see, FanDuel 4,200 or under. That is Matisse Thybulle, unfortunately. But he's also better on FanDuel. He's better on FanDuel just because of the defensive stats. He's picking up some ownership on there as well. But he's the answer.
Correct.
Absolute zero on offense, but he's going to give you the defensive stats.
Sure is.
The next super chat here is from, Cyber Real Estate. Eric, like a sprained ankle, ain't nothing to play with. Why is my slam dunk pick of Trae Young points and assists not on Prize Pick, but Luka and his assists are? Yeah, Eric, why did you not include that in? Why did you not list that on Prize Picks?
Ankle. Look at Mike Ankle. Everything hurts. Give you a spankle. I'm not sure, but the assists plus rebounds ain't what it used to be, my bro. And dude, Cyber Real Estate with the points and the assists with the hizzy and the dizzy. We got Luka points and assists though for Shizzy, my dizzy.
There we go. I think that's probably the best. I don't know why it isn't listed.
No idea. Zero clue.
Isn't. Sean Kaiser, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Keegan Murray. I said Kyler Murray for a second there.
It's okay. He is dead. He's playing video games as we speak.
There we go.
Double points weekend? Probably a double points weekend.
Could be. Well, it's the middle of the week.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it's coming up. He's preparing. Got to get that practice in.
He's practicing. He's working on his aiming. Triple J and Murray or Kessler and Dort. That's a tough one.
I think I got to go Kessler Dort for sure.
I like Kessler so much.
I like Kessler a lot, and every time he scores a basket, every time he gets one of his 48 blocks, somebody in Minnesota is that much closer to the edge, and I'm about to break. Like, it's just really bad.
We get a request for an ownership update from Zach McMurray. So let's go look at it. I'll read off who by the way, because we got one 2 minutes ago. I'll read off the most popular players on both DraftKings and FanDuel. The top 5 on DK: Chris Dunn, Eric's favorite player, project for 42% ownership. Then we got Jared Vanderbilt at 38%. THT, Taylor Horton Tucker, 37%. Malik Beasley, 31%. Dennis Schroeder at 29%. So top 5, 3 Lakers, 2 Jazz players on DraftKings. For FanDuel, THT, the most popular player on the slate, 57% owned. THT over on FanDuel: Chris Dunn, 50%. Kyle Kuzma, 36%. DeLon Wright, 32%. And then Dennis Schroeder, 31%. So a little more of the Wizards on FanDuel, and then a little bit more of the Lakers over on DraftKings. But overall, a lot of the chalk is fairly similar across the 2 sites. Anything that stands out to you right there?
Chris Dunn.
Figured you might say that. Had a feeling. Let me upload these lineups. Probably should do that. The next super chat, by the way, is from Mr. CoolCam97. Top 3 center plays on FanDuel not named AD or Jokic.
They're pretty clear cut to me. I mean, not AD and Jokic, Domantas Sabonis. I mean, how do you get away from playing more Claxton than everybody else at 6,200 against Milwaukee? That feels pretty fun too. Yeah, those are my favorites. And then Walker Kessler, of course, but like, again, we covered that.
Gafford also, I know Sabonis also has power forward eligibility. But the fact that he's also center eligible, I think he should be in consideration on FanDuel, but also Walker Kessler, Daniel Gafford as well, in the absence of Kristaps Porzingis. That would be another one. Yeah. Next super chat is from, we have so many of these today.
Yep. Can I also just throw out there that I think that one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate is Deni Avdija, and nobody seems to want to play him. So play him.
Yeah, remember, Deni was
mega chalk pretty recently.
3 weeks ago. And
yeah.
He's in a more advantageous spot once again with Kristaps Porzingis out. It was when Bradley Beal, a couple things, if I remember correctly. It was Bradley Beal being out, and then also Rui Hachimura getting traded at the trade deadline. We had slates of like 40% Deni every night.
Yep.
So I don't mind that. Lakers 5-1-3 on DK, Sabonis, Olynyk, or Beal, Kuzma. Another tough one. Sabonis or Olynyk for me, especially now that we're finding out that Sabonis isn't that popular.
Yeah, I'm playing Sabonis. He is. Oh boy, do I have a lot of Sabonis.
All right, 1 second. Just uploading these lineups.
Also, I have Troy Brown in my player pool, and I have a decent enough where I should at least throw that out there, because I don't think I said I didn't like him, but like I was on the fringe between playing him and Chris Dunn, which sounds crazy to some people because it is a little bit crazy. But yeah, I definitely like getting to a little bit of Troy Brown at 3,100.
Yeah, I've been on my player pool as well. I mean, I brought it before. I put you on the spot and made you say which one that you
yeah, I know, but I said it a little bit gingerly, if you will. So I wanted to at least say it with my chest. Also, did we get Xavier Tillman starting? Did I just see that?
The starting lineup for the Grizzlies.
I just had somebody hit me up and say Tillman ? One of my buddies who plays DFS.
I haven't seen that. Well, the starting lineup came out a while ago, and yeah, Tillman is starting.
Okay, because I'm assuming he's watching Hi Thomas, but yeah, he was just like any Xavier Tillman. I was like, what? And we have Xavier Tillman start.
I mean, it's still like, it doesn't really make that big of a difference for me that
I mean, he started last game against Denver. I mean, with Brandon Clark there, it's like a minute split. He's 5,100, but it is a Lakers matchup. That's like the one nice thing. You get AD. I just don't think this is the slate for it.
By the way, Jay, I have not forgotten about your super chat. I have those lineups built. As soon as we get to lock, I'm going to answer your question about my favorite tournament plays for the showdown contest between the Kings and the Thunder. Mike L, FanDuel GPP, Schroeder and Jokic, or Lillard and Gafford. That is actually Lillard and Gafford for me on FanDuel.
Agreed.
Now let's go into Discord, and I'm pretty sure that I've answered all these super chats. I see also that Jordan sent me a bunch of them, and just going to run. Oh, you know what? Big Money NJ. A little juice for you guys because February has been a smash month. Keep putting out the great content, and thank you. $50 from Big Money NJ. Almost missed that. Thank you very much for the super chat. Daniel Buffington. Who is Sean V fading tonight? I want to do the complete opposite. I don't know. I've been trying to get Sean V as my co-host and Eric fired, but since it hasn't come through yet, I don't know who Sean V is fading.
Don't get Chad excited.
Yeah, I don't know. If Sean V's in chat, he could tell you. Sean V would be a better person to ask who he's playing than I am.
You really frustrate me sometimes.
I have no clue who Sean V is playing. Let's get to some of these Discord questions. This one is from Michael Pizzulli. What's up with Goodwin on FanDuel highest leverage? It's just because
What's up with that? What's up with that?
It's just he's so low owned, and they have the potential to play smaller lineups with Porzingis out. I'm not playing Goodwin today, though.
That is the answer.
Kenny Wayne, any Giannis on DK interest? Nope. I didn't end up playing Giannis. I get that he's low owned, but I have concerns about how much he's going to play. He got hurt. He was smashing. Came back and immediately got hurt again.
I had a lot of him. He was 1%. I had a lot of him relative. I had like 25% or something because I just thought there was going to be a ton of value. And then all the value showed up and it all smashed. And I got like my 7 points or whatever, 20 points from Giannis or whatever it was that night. Got hurt like after 7 minutes. It was so brutal. It was so bad.
Joanne Willis, what is your best locks on Prize Picks? Have you built out any Prize Picks cards, Eric?
I have a couple Prize Picks for him, but we are on an NHA show, so I want to talk NHA if I can. But let me see if there's a couple that I like that are on both.
Yeah, Joanne seems like a lady's name to me, though. You called. I could be wrong, but
I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm just looking at Prize Picks, No House Advantage. Let's see something that is on.
We're going to be talking about NHA in the post-lock show.
Yeah, well. I just want to make sure so stick around because again, those aren't going to lock. The lineups are going to lock here in 2.5 minutes. Those props will still be made available over on Prize Picks, and the No House Advantage will be able to talk about all the stuff for them for the games that lock in half an hour. Yeah, will be fun.
So for Joanne, Eric, while you look that up, I'll answer some more questions from our Discord. Miami High Life wants to know the top Utah and Sacramento players to target. So for me, it is Talen Horton-Tucker, Malik Monk, Kelly Olynyk, Domantas Sabonis, Walker Kessler. Like those 5 are my guys tonight from Utah.
My dudes. Yeah, I mean Jared Vanderbilt.
He's not on Utah or Sacramento.
Oh, sorry, Utah and Sacramento. That was the question. Cool. Glad I'm here.
Strickstein 71, Giddey or Beal, last man in.
Beal. Beal's a great play.
Ernie wants to know top 3 owned players by position. So for me, I'll read these off, fire through these, and then do you have the Prize Picks play ready?
Yeah, I've got it here in a second. Give me one more minute.
All right, so I'll just answer this.
Go.
For Ernie P, the top 3 that I have at each position: point guard is Schroeder, Giddey, and Luka. Shooting guard is Monk, Beal, and THT. THT also available at small forward, and then Kyle Kuzma, then just kind of spread out beyond there. Power forward for me, Kuzma, Olynyk, and Jared Vanderbilt. Center, Olynyk and Vanderbilt as well. And then Sabonis, Walker Kessler, Anthony Davis.
All right. My favorite play, period, on Prize Picks for tonight, Nicholas Claxton, 30 fantasy score. My God. That is just absurd.
Quick super chat from Big Boy IE. He wants to know Jakob Poeltl or Daniel Gafford. I love Jakob Poeltl, but it's Daniel Gafford today.
Daniel Gafford.
Yeah, Jakob Poeltl's been a guy for me as of late, but got to be Gafford.
Not as much of a guy for you as Magruder.
Oh, no. I mean, there's your guy, and then there's your guy.
There's your guy, and then you got a guy who's your guy.
Supak wants to know Anthony Edwards or Tyrese Halliburton for FanDuel. I prefer Tyrese Halliburton. And then that answers all the questions. Oh, no, one here from Bossbro. Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Poole, or Kessler and Halliburton. That is Kessler and Halliburton for me.
Yeah, Kessler, Halliburton.
All right, now we've answered all of them, and we are at lock. So I am going to answer Jay's question now, because we've been sitting on this, and the lineups are running in the background. So for the players that I think make the most sense for the showdown game between the Sacramento Kings and the Oklahoma City Thunder, you still got 30 minutes to get these lineups in. These are the players I got the most of. As the captain, number 1 was Domantas Sabonis, and then Josh Giddey was the next option. By the way, Davion Mitchell, as much like it's a little hard to get away from in a showdown setting. Where
agreed.
Let's see the price.
It's like $1K.
The price on Davion Mitchell, he's the flat min at $1K. So I got to a bunch from there. It's totally different when he's $1,000 in a 1-game slate. So Davion Mitchell, really strong value option there, and then still. Josh Giddey looks really good. Isaiah Joe is utility player. Domantas Sabonis. So Lou Dort as another one. But yeah, I think Davion Mitchell is somebody who is way different looking in a 1-game showdown contest than he does in the large slate. So play Davion Mitchell in that.
Agreed.
Make sure that there was no more super chats, which there are not. How are you feeling good? How are you feeling about this slate? Everything good?
Yeah, I feel great. I mean, I obviously am going to feel like an absolute dunce cap if Chris Dunn starts. Makes me feel really dumb. That would be unfun. But other than that, I feel pretty good about my builds. I really liked getting overweight to some of these Washington pieces that it felt like fell a little bit by the wayside. I'm very curious to see where Deni Avdia's ownership came in, because he was like the main guy that, again, we have the boom bust tool. We have a lot of things that are kind of a result of, oh, great, Daishawn Nix is starting. Joy.
Starting lineup for the Houston Rockets that you just mentioned. It is Nix, Jalen Green, KJ Martin, Jabari Smith, and Şengün. I am not going to be playing Nix, I don't think.
It's 3,200. I will.
Let me look at his.
I already said I don't like Dunn. I'll take the $400 discount and play a little bit of Daishawn Nix.
What is he doing this year? Boy, he sucks.
What is he doing? He is terrible. He is really bad, but he's also played 30 minutes off the bench like last game. If you're trying to lose basketball games, again, Ty Washington's 4,300, so that should tell you, like, Ty Washington is not a good fantasy producer, but he's played 32 minutes. If I just put 32 minutes for Daishawn Nix, yeah, I'm definitely going to get to him.
Can I give you some information that might change your mind a little bit?
What?
He's made 5 starts.
Oh, no. Seriously? I feel like this happens once a show now. Like, this is starting to get gosh darn ridiculous, isn't it? Honestly? I mean, I couldn't be happier. I just don't even want to talk to him anymore. It's been so mean. It's whatever. Let's continue on our merry way, shall we? I'm looking over at the No House Advantage board. He's going to jump in here eventually and cut me off, because that's how it always works. He can probably hear me as it is right now, but looking over at NBA Bet Pro, I'll give you a little bit of a glimpse behind the paywall here. We have amazing tools and content here at Stokastic. You can sign up for that in the video description box below. But NBA Bet Pro has been a print fest, and a lot of the time when I'm building out some of these 2, 3, 4 player cards in these after shows and playing them myself, I'm taking a lot of the projections that are at the top of NBA Bet Pro. Domantas Sabonis under 7.5 assists. That's probably what I'm steering away from. But Luka Doncic over 8.5 rebounds. That's one part of his game that I do not expect. Like, I expect him to succeed some usage, some assist opportunities to Kyrie Irving. But from a rebound perspective, Luka Doncic, 8.5 feels pretty low in a game against Indiana where there should be a lot of possessions. So no house advantage. That's my first play on the card. Greg, are you back?
Yeah, and
there we go.
I'm going to try something. I think my Ethernet's fucked up. I want to see if this runs better going no Ethernet than it does with Ethernet in.
Are you in the Matrix?
I've had my computer plugged into Ethernet, and for whatever reasons, it seems to be. So what I've been doing is my thing fucks up, and I just unplug the Ethernet cable. I've got it out now. See how it goes. Jordan
Klein, the judgment is so real. It's incredible. It's just like, you're an idiot. Like, I think the problem is you're an idiot.
But I just sit here and talk. I mean, also relatively stupid shit most of the time, but still, it shouldn't make the, we could try that. I have a really big.
My God, did this game just start? Lakers and Memphis started. Troy Brown first bucket. Tillman bucket. Brooks is 0 for 3 already. What is Dylan Brooks doing on a basketball floor?
Did you see what he wore to the game?
No, I can't imagine it's good.
It wasn't great. Let me see if I could send it to. How is he 0 for 3 a minute and a half into the game?
Because he's Dylan Brooks, of course.
Let me try to. Jordan, can you
Baby,
find that on
I'm
Twitter?
Dylan
Not,
Brooks. I don't know what this world's gonna bring. It works better with Jalen Suggs, but still.
Come on, find me the Dylan Brooks.
Anthony Davis has 3 boards already. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, you should play well today. And
exact starting lineup we expected from the Kings. That's good to see. Things you like to see are that.
All right, Jordan. Oh, it's already on the screen.
Isaiah Joe.
That's what he showed up to the game with, all of that confidence to shoot 0 for 3 in the first minute and a half of the game.
Yep.
Well, at least he's likely to win the game because he's playing against the Lakers.
Yep. And at least we got Isaiah Joe starting this time around.
He started last game also.
I know he did, but I'm saying he didn't start the second half, and he was mega, mega, mega popular. And here, at least, he's not as popular, so I do have him today.
I do as well.
It's almost like ownership matters, people.
It's not like he was. I mean, he was good last night. It's not like he was insane.
55%. Oh, like no, you needed him at that point. He ended up putting up like almost 30 still after doing nothing, and I was loving it because I basically full faded. And then he didn't start the second half. I felt very, very smart, and then I felt very, very stupid. I just think at sub 20%, he's much more playable considering he's a really good fantasy producer.
Yeah, Isaiah Joe scored 29 fantasy points last game. And yeah, like you said, Anthony Davis is off to a decent enough start. 3 rebounds in that game. And Dylan Brooks made a shot. So he is not deterred from shooting because of his bad start. Dylan Brooks is 1 for 4 from the field in 2.5 minutes is insane for somebody who's not
incredible.
A good offensive player.
It's very.
And when you're playing with guys like Jaren Jackson Jr.,
Jared Vanderbilt back-to-back steals. This dude on defense, I miss him. Can we please have him back on Minnesota? I just want Jared Vanderbilt back on my basketball team.
What about Walker Kessler? Do you like him?
I will literally fly to New Jersey, make sweet, sweet love to you. That's what I'll do.
Sounds like a weekend. Super chat from Thomas Rensberger helping pay for that plane flight. He wants to know Knicks and Giddey or Klay Thompson and Dunn on FanDuel. I like this where people try to. I think we should give Eric a lot of Chris Dunn questions in 1v1.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm honestly going to just absolve myself because I have a feeling that the Dunn side is the one you want, and I'm never going to be right. Also, yeah, Deshaun Knicks, I definitely am rostering, so this is going to go well.
Let's see. That's by the way, I don't think Nick should project all that differently from Chris Dunn. Knicks and Giddey for me.
Yep. Thank you. Welcome to Team Lindquist here. Deshaun Knicks season, baby.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's Deshaun Knicks season.
It is.
But here's part of the issue with Deshaun Knicks now starting is, as much as he sucks as a fantasy producer, even if I think he plays 30 fantasy points, if he plays 30 minutes, it gets him to over a 20 fantasy point projection.
Yeah, but absolutely nobody's going to play him, whereas Chris Dunn's the most popular player on the slate, and something has to be said for that. I think there's 34-minute upside. I also think Houston, it's not like you have Kevin Porter Jr. out there. So like different circumstances. Jalen Green, yeah, that's problematic. Alperen Şengün, if he stays on the floor, but like, I mean, Deshaun Knicks should be playing 28 minutes, I would think, minimum, with an upside of 34. They're not trying to win a basketball game here. So like, I don't know. It feels like even though he's at a 0.7 fantasy point per minute spot, if I put him up to like 32, 34 minutes, anybody could run into being a 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer and really smash there. So I'm taking a couple shots. I'm not going crazy. I have 15%.
All right. I'll play some lineups with
Deshaun Knicks season.
10% of them I have now. How about that?
Look at that. That makes me feel nice. Makes me feel loved. Thank you.
upload the late swap.
Did we ever look at ownership, by the way, too? We got to look at ownership before we build out our card.
Yeah, we can look at some of the ownership. So who is popular in, I'll pull up the $15 over on DraftKings. Who are the most owned players? Ownership, high to low. Oh boy, what do you think Jared Vanderbilt ended up being owned?
No idea.
53%.
Jesus Christ. I had a feeling. He was a great play, though.
53% Jared Vanderbilt, 28% Dennis Schroeder, 27% Malik Beasley, 25% Anthony Davis. Nobody else has more than 10%.
What did Denny? You didn't say Denny yet.
Oh, you know why? Because I was just looking at the app at the leaderboard, and I'll go download the CSV.
Because that game hasn't started yet, so I'm curious.
Yeah, I'll download the CSV. It's going to take a second. So let's
TNT was like, let's get this show on the road. No LeBron, just start the game. Like at 4:30.
They started that game, probably the fastest that game has started to lock of the season, right?
Ever in the history of you and I doing these shows. 2 years of this.
Did it actually start early?
Yeah, it started after 4:30, but like it was like an MLB start time where it's like it says it on the ticket. That is when the first pitch is getting thrown.
I spilled water on myself.
That's embarrassing for you.
That's okay. But have you watched any of the spring training with the pitch clock, by the way?
Sure have. It's been fantastic. I'm going to spring training in 3 weeks, so that'll be fun.
Ooh, where at? Arizona?
I'm going to go watch Cubs and Brewers. So hang out with Yelly and Belly. It's wild. I'm not hanging out. Well, yeah, I probably will be, but be on the field.
They're being 13% owned, by the way.
Okay.
The ownership of some of the other players that I mentioned, Gafford is at 26%. We've got Beal at 22%, Kuzma 21%. Denny came in at 13%. So those are the players from the Wizards that end up being north of 10%. Yeah. So yeah, Denny got some steam.
Yeah, I wanted to say, though, I don't like the pitch clock, but I've enjoyed watching people react to it. I've been watching some of the ways that it's gone down. I think having a conversation about it is important because pace of play is an issue to a certain extent, but like, I don't know. It's going to get really, really weird if you're going to be watching it on TV, seeing a clock in the corner the whole time. Like that's going to make me feel a little weird watching baseball.
So on one hand, like it's become this narrative that pace of play is an issue for baseball, but football is the most popular sport. Those games last like 3 days. It's like watching cricket to watch an NFL game. The games never end.
There's just people who hate football, and you and Josh are two of them.
It's not even, I mean, part of that, but like, I don't understand, like, why is pace of play considered an issue for baseball, but
because you're hitting people, Greg, because there's contact.
The pace of play is infinitely slower in football than it is in baseball.
Yeah, I suppose. Football's god awful in plotting. Terry McBride, pro baseball, fan of baseball. We're going to throw it out there.
And then also, I mean, Terry brought it up, but like you watch a football game and it's going to take on average, 3 hours, 15 minutes for an NFL game?
Mm-hmm.
And how many plays are in an NFL game?
A few.
Like not that many.
Yeah. No, it's a very limited amount of time that people are actually participating in physical activity. It's very short burst. Yeah.
Have you ever watched a football, like a condensed version of a football game?
Yeah, you watch the NFL. Yeah, I've watched the tape on, what is it, the NFL app? Like you're able to watch like it basically in like 10 minutes.
Game lasts like 16 minutes. So yeah, you sit, if
fast.
you watch a 3 hour and 15 minute football game, sometimes like 3 hours and 30 minutes, you are watching 16 minutes of play. Something like that.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I don't think if people don't like baseball, they just don't like baseball. I don't think the pace of play is I don't think pace of play is the reason, though.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, my dog he is not having it today. It's daddy dog care over here, all me all day. And he is just like, I am ready for mom to be home and feed me.
Slim Savage saying the NFL makes the TV companies way more money. Yeah, I agree, but that doesn't mean that it isn't slow paced.
This is true. Kyle Kuzma, awesome start, 6 points, 1 rebound. Anything else in that game? Absolutely not. You don't want any other part of it. Toronto off to a nice start against Chicago here, maybe because they have a miniature human being in Patrick Beverley on the floor amongst all 6'7" Adonises for the Raptors. Might be an issue. 7'1" or 7'2" Jakob Poeltl. So 7-2 there. Milwaukee. We'll see if Giannis can get past the first quarter today. That'd be neat for everybody involved. Nick Claxton steal. That's useful. I like that.
Let's build out some NHA cards here.
Let's do it.
Jordan, if you wouldn't mind, pull NHA up on the screen, and I have NBA Bet Pro in front of me. Going to be looking at this and then some of our projections here. They really go hand in hand. It's super, super useful. If you guys want to check out NBA Bet Pro, 7-day free trial. Click on the link below. Your first 7 days totally free. And what I think is going to happen is you're going to make some money in those 7 days, and then it's just going to pay for itself in perpetuity after that. So go check out NBA Bet Pro for free. Use to place some wagers, whether it be on sportsbooks like FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, or if you're in a state that doesn't have legal sports betting, you probably have access to No House Advantage, where you could play props against the house. And we're about to build you out a parlay card right here. So let's look at NBA Bet Pro, and anything immediately standing out to you, Eric?
This Alperen Sengun stuff is wild. So there's this guy on Twitter who's like a beat writer for Houston. And I don't get into Twitter beefs really. And I don't even think this is like I know you do. You love it. You live for that shit. You would really like, you probably would have gone a different route. But anyway, this guy.
Sorry to cut you off. I have spent an inordinate amount of time arguing with people that have 7 followers and no profile picture on Twitter.
Yeah, well, this guy at least has like 8,000 followers. So like he's legitimately like he covers the Rockets. That's his job. He seems like a decent enough dude. But either way, he quote tweeted something that I tweeted out of the absolute atmosphere, like out of the middle of nowhere, where I just said, Alperen Sengun, it's malpractice what they're doing with him, that they should let him play through some of his defensive inefficiencies. And this whole thing with Silas being like, Alperen Sengun can't guard in the pick and roll, and he was the reason Damian Lillard scored all the points. Alperen Sengun did not touch the floor in the fourth quarter against Portland, and Damian Lillard scored 21 points against them. So I'm just saying, I don't think it was all Alperen Sengun. I think it had a lot to do with a dude was unconscious in Damian Lillard, and nobody was stopping it at any point in time. But either way, not here or there, I like shorting Alperen Sengun where you can. 8.5 is actually a lower rebound prop than we've seen of him of late. I know a lot of people were hitting the under of 9.5 last slate. He ended up going for 10, probably a little bit tilting, but at 8.5 with an interior of Jokic there. And I think this is just like tanking at its finest. There's no Deshaun Nix is starting an NBA game today. Let's just throw that out there again. I do think that they should be letting their young players play, whether it's Terry Eason, Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, but it seems as though they bring in this riffraff off the bench to play 18, 20 minutes, and it's really cut into Alperen Sengun's minutes. He's now only played 25 and 24 without touching the floor in the fourth quarter. If that continues, hard to imagine 8.5 the under isn't a really good play.
By the way, Riffraff, the rapper, kind of looks like Jose Alvarado.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, just kind of something, because you said riffraff and it just kind of made me think of it, and then his image popped into my head, and I do think he looks
very
a little bit like Jose Alvarado.
Thank you, Greg Ehrenberg. Also, where did Jordan go? Jordan's no longer with us.
Yeah, I was gonna have him put a picture of riffraff up on the screen next to Jose Alvarado, because Jose Alvarado is also hurt right now. So, real quick, real quick super chat for my filler arc. He wants to know Monk or Dort. I prefer Malik Monk.
I prefer Malik Monk in all things.
All right. Let's get back to our prop card here over on NHA. So we're starting with Sengun, right? That's where we're opening up?
Yes.
Sengun is where we are starting. What else looks good here?
We're taking under 8.5 rebounds. Yeah, what's he at 15.5 points? I don't want anything to do with that.
Well, Jordan was not interested in anything he had to say, was he?
It's a real helpful human being. I also talked about Cam Reddish playing low 30s minutes. Let's just add the over of 2.5 rebounds to that for now, too. Okay. Cam Reddish, a piece that I feel like I'm higher on than the field for the second straight slate. Did not go well last slate.
And so Luka Doncic is over under for points on NHA is 31.5. Give me the over on that. I know he's playing alongside Kyrie Irving right now, but there's enough shots for two of them to each have a 50% usage rate, and then nobody else could shoot the ball. I have him projected for close to 33. We've got Luka projected in our numbers, 33.5. Big points projection for Luka Doncic, but makes sense to me. I like taking the over on that as well. So any pushback from you with over 31.5 for Luka?
Nope. None. And also think about who he's going to be sharing the floor with very, very shortly for a majority of the minutes within the next couple of weeks. He's going to get ramped up. Maxi Kleber, he's yet another dude who's not out there to score. He's out there for defensive purposes. He can knock down an open three here and there. He's done that in years past. But Maxi Kleber back in this rotation, more usage that you would think available as opposed to a Josh Green out there.
And the other thing, too, also, the usage for Luka last 4 games. Going to read this off. All games he played alongside Kyrie Irving. 34%, 34%, 38%, 38%. He's still getting his shots up. Now, for the season, Luka's usage rate, by the way, 36%. It hasn't been that much different to this point alongside Kyrie Irving. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But, Spencer Dinwiddie was a fairly high usage guy at one point as well. Not Kyrie, but
Dylan
Luka.
Brooks is just out there chucking, dude. This is hilarious. 1 for 6 from the field. What are we doing with our lives, sir? Denny, out to 3 boards, nothing else. Can you please join the human race, Denny? That'd be nice. Thank you.
Yeah, Dylan Brooks is like more shots than all his teammates combined. Then we've got, meanwhile, on the other side, the Lakers could use more from Anthony Davis, who's only taken 2 shots, but he's off to a decent enough start. 5 points, 6 boards for him. Dennis Schroeder, but actually everybody other than AD is off to a pretty slow start for the Lakers. Dennis Schroeder, 2 points, a rebound, then an assist. Malik Beasley, 0 points, 0 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. A lot of the chalk looks like it could be bombing here for the Lakers. Are you concerned at all?
No. A lot of basketball left.
I think you should be more concerned. I don't like your level-headedness about this.
Thank you. That's what I got.
2 more picks. I want to get us to 5 over on NHA because I want to get us the 21x bonus. That's it. So the payouts that you guys are going to get on NHA, and also if you guys haven't signed up yet, one more time, I'm going to remind you, the link below, up to $100 bonus on your first deposit when you sign up at NHA using our link, is that they are going to give you better payouts than anywhere else. You're not going to find a 4-leg parlay that's going to pay out 11x your money anywhere other than NHA. You're not going to find a 5-leg parlay that pays out better than 21x your money other than over to NHA. So something to keep in mind as well. We have 3 legs in. Is that right, Jordan? Can you pull that up? I think
third leg, Greg. Third leg, Greg. Let's go.
4th leg. We're about to go a 4th leg.
I don't even know what that would look like. I don't want to know.
4th leg. Well, it would just actually be me on all 4s, I think. And then I understand how the 5th
leg Greg.
Yeah.
5th leg, Greg.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. All right. So we have 2 more that we want to fill out, right? We've done Şengün under 8.5 rebounds. We have done Cam Reddish over 2.5 rebounds. We've done Luka Doncic over 31.5 points. 2 more spots left to fill. And I'm looking through some of these numbers right here. I'm seeing what kind of stands out to me. And here's one that I like. Low number. Mike Conley over under for points is 10.5. I know that he hasn't had big scoring games for Minnesota, but this seems like an overcorrection. 10.5 points. We got him for 12. Even our 12-point projection, I think you make a case is a little bit low. I like Mike Conley over 10.5 points. Can you get behind that? I know we've seen some bad scoring numbers for him. The usage hasn't been all that high, but still super low number for Mike Conley, who, still overall is a player who I think more often than not scores over 10.5 points.
I am very much here for that.
There we go. So that's 4 legs, giving us the 11x.
Can you repeat those to me? I'm putting a card together as we're going.
Yeah. So we are at right now, Alperen Şengün under 8.5 rebounds. That's from yourself. Then we got Luka Doncic over 31.5 points. That's from myself. Then we've got Cam Reddish over 2.5 rebounds. That one's from yourself. And then finally, we've got Mike Conley over 10.5 rebounds. That is from me. That gets us at 11x over on NHA. One more to hit the 21x parlay. Who are you going to go with? Who do you want to fill it out with? Who's going to reach?
I'm kind of torn between 2. Okay. I'm kind of torn. One of them, I'm thinking about shorting everything Russell Westbrook tonight. I already did it from a betting perspective. I'm thinking about doing it on NHA as well. I'm not sure which I want to go to, but he didn't close last game. And there is an obvious issue here with Russell Westbrook where he's just not very good anymore. And I think that they've now invested where he's going to start. He's still going to be a part of it there. And Minnesota, it's a decent enough matchup, but like 26.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. I like the under of big time for Russell Westbrook. That's the one that I had from a betting perspective. I think that's a really good one to round out the card. I mean, if you look at some of these other props, like he's currently got 6.5 for his assist line. Add that to 5.5 rebounds. Okay. So now you're at 12. And then you add 13.5. That's 25.5. You're getting an extra 1 to go for the entire ensemble and take the under. Sure, turnovers and his fantasy issues, like, you know, it's a completely different thing looking at him in like a DFS perspective because you have to think about the turnovers. But like, that's a pretty big number when you're playing alongside Paul George, alongside Kawhi Leonard. You're going to get another big out there that I think should be limiting some of the rebounds for them. You're going to have Zubats and Plumlee. You're probably not going to look at many small Marcus Morris lineups so long as Zubats is in there today. So with that upgrade for Zubats getting to, I believe he's questionable for this. If he ends up playing, I like shorting the rebounds, but I think I just like shorting the entire portfolio altogether.
Or that I was going to ask, I don't think there are. Search Chris Dunn in there. Is there any Chris Dunn props?
Please don't.
Dunn. No. You've been
Eric's math is elite. Yes, I can add. Go me.
Some quick questions in our Discord channel. Jets World, why is Monk higher owned than Herter? And then Knicks or Mitchell on DK? I prefer Knicks. And as for why is Monk higher owned than Herter? Herter has to play with the starters. Monk comes off the bench where he's not competing with anybody for usage. I have Monk projected for more fantasy points.
Love it.
Do you have more exposure to Monk or Herter?
You selected an offer that is not available anymore. Please refresh. No. I have way more Monk than Herter.
And then one more question from Vince 1979 Gator. Luka, Şengün, Dort, or Lillard, Sabonis, and Holiday? As much as I like Lillard, Sabonis, I'm not playing Holiday today. So Luka, Şengün, and Dort.
Yep, there you go.
So I hope that helps you out there, Vince 1979 Gator. Let's look at some of the early results so far from the first quarter. We'll tilt our faces off, and then we are going to be getting out of here in a couple minutes. Cool. Troy Brown is off to a start of 2 points and 1 rebound. Jared Vanderbilt, the most popular player on the slate by a mile right now. 2 points and 1 steal in the first quarter. AD got to 5.7 rebounds and a block in the first quarter. And Dylan Brooks, who finally decided to stop shooting because they took him off the court. And it was the only way to get him to
Only
stop.
way to do it. Yeah.
He is still 1 of 6 from the field and really spread out scoring from Memphis. So nobody else is really doing anything of note. Panicking? Any panic about any Lakers guys?
Nope. What was your last, again, I'm trying to get this NHA one together. What was your last one? You had the,
Luka over 31.5 points.
31.5 for Luka. Got it. Thank you.
Over 31.5 for Luka.
Yep. Got it.
Brad, by the way, Brad Beal, 11 points and an assist in the first quarter. So Beal's got it going now. Avdia, 2 points, 5 boards for Avdia. Some other notables, not really any there from the Atlanta Hawks. So there we go. A lot of the Nets Bucks game for anybody of interest. Giannis played 5 minutes and then checked out. So he kind of does that normally. I don't know what that means for his minutes. What are you most concerned about tonight when it comes to your lineups? Who's going to screw you other than insert joke here?
I mean, stop it. Like we all know the answer. If you've reached this portion of the program, I think you're very aware of what's happening.
Trey Jones is out, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. I just saw that he came through. Everybody's prices are inflated over on the Spurs to a place where I don't think we need to be thinking about playing Malachi Branham this time around at 5,400 or Zach Collins. Keldon Johnson, I think, is okay, but he's been okay on a lot of slates, and it hasn't necessarily worked out for me. So Keldon Johnson, I'll have a little bit of as well.
Yeah, he's been out, so it's not going to really change all that much, but just want to make sure that we brought that to the people since that news came just as we were finishing. But everybody who watched, thank you very much for sticking around to this point. If you didn't do it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you haven't checked it out yet, we've got a new NBA betting show that is on the Odd Shopper channel, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. It is Lofty. It is Ben Rasa. It is Eitan Shander and a whole cast of other characters. Occasionally might get Eric or myself jumping on that as well. So check that out. Subscribe to our Odd Shopper channel. Look at that show every day. We'll be back here tomorrow. Good luck tonight, everybody.